All right, my friends. We just pressed the Let's Go Live button, so let's wait for those tubes to connect themselves all across the fruited plain of the interwebs. What the hell did I just say? Did I say that right? I was reading multiple things there. Let's connect the interwebs because we've got some business to attend to. It looks like we're live on Locals. Let's make sure Rumbles is kicking on. Hopefully Locals is working today. YouTube, all the places. It's working. That's tremendous news. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about our demented president. He's coming out for his first big boy press conference since his disastrous debate, and we are standing firm behind Joe Biden for the Democratic nominee because he represents Democrats, and we stand here today saying, you can do it, Joe. Yes, you can. You did it before. You can do it again here. And so we're going to talk about this. He is set to come out in about 1 hour. Now, my understanding was this was supposed to be at 6:30 Eastern time, but it's gotten bumped again. So they moved it. It was supposed to originally be at 5 p.m. Eastern time, so the clips could hit some of the news shows. Then it got moved, I think, to 6:30, 5:30 to 6:30. Then they moved it to 7 p.m. All right, so we don't know when it's going to come out, but we plan for that. And we've got other segments that we can talk about until that time happens. But we're going to come back, of course, and watch this disaster. Almost feels like we're getting ready for the Colosseum, like Joe Biden is being let out there, like that scene in Gladiator, and we all know what's going to happen here. The lions are getting ready to come out and attack him. All the media, Jake Tapper's currently got that outfit on. He's underneath the sand with the pitchforks and the spears. Cooper's, wearing that outfit and all the things. So they're all just getting ready to go attack him. It's like they brought out their garbage disposals or something. We'll see what is happening, but they're very upset. Right now, the Biden campaign is testing Kamala versus Donald Trump. If she is at the top of the ticket, what does that mean? And there's some reasons why the Biden campaign might be curious about that. One reason might be because they can just go back and show everybody right in their faces, Kamala's even worse than Joe. She has a functional brain, allegedly, and her poll numbers are even worse than his. So we'll take the dementia patient over the cackling insane asylum woman. And maybe that's why they're doing it, but who knows? But the point is, they're looking into it. It was breaking news today. The news stations were talking about it. So we'll go through a couple clips on this and see what Kamala was up to today because she was out speaking. And then the media is just furious. Okay, so this leak, they know that Biden has this big boy day today. He's going to get all suited up and go talk to the press like his first day of school. And so they're now leaking everything, explaining how much they hate this man. And so they dropped this story saying that Biden's cabinet meetings have not happened for months, like 9 months or something. And when the meetings do happen, they're this choreographed, scripted scam routine where everybody comes in with talking points and it's just a rehearsed show and tell project there at the White House. So we'll see what they said about that. Media is furious about this. Okay, Jake Tapper and the rest of them are just lacing into him. They're talking about editing these stories out. Remember some time ago, we played evidence that they were sending radio interviewers questions that they could ask Joe Biden. So the campaign would send questions over to the radio and say, can you please just ask these questions of him? And like good little lemmings, they say, of course, we're happy to do that. Turns out they also edited the video, edited the audio before it went live. And they clipped out something pretty important where Joe Biden is commenting on all the black people in his administration. And so I don't know why they clipped that out, but they did. And so Jake Tapper, who ordinarily wouldn't talk about this stuff, is just hammering Joe every day. And we've explained this. If they do this every day between now and the election, Joe Biden's done, right? So they're obviously not going to do that. So what's the end game? They're all racing to cause as much damage as quickly as possible to make it an acute wound so that Joe goes immediately, because if it's a slow bleed out, well, then they're just harming themselves. They're basically cannibalizing their own efforts. And so they're making it hurt right now. The question is, will Joe Biden survive it? The big boy conference that's coming up soon will say a lot about his future in the party. Now, we also had this Senator Manchin and others who were out today explaining their position on Joe Biden and whether he should stay in the race or not. So we'll go through some of those clips. And Hakeem Jeffries was also out and about doing much the same. So we'll see what he says. And a lot of them are taking this new tack now that Joe Biden still is going to be making his decision. We're all asking ourselves, what do you mean? He's already made his decision like 5 times. He's done multiple interviews. He's putting a written statement out. His advisors and surrogates have all said the same thing. So what is there to continue to talk about? Who knows? We'll see what's going on with those individuals. Then we see there's a new narrative that is percolating right now. It's the same old meme that we saw back in 2020 and 2016, which is that the Russians are helping Trump. Oh no, the Russians are helping Trump. And there's a ton of stories that dropped today. Of course, Joe Biden's press conference is going to be on the heels of this NATO summit that they're hosting there. And Joe Biden came out and he's now doing this old Putin thing again. Donald Trump is Putin's lapdog, right? Okay, I will never bow down to dictators. I just became one, prosecuted my political opponents. But watch our new ad and come and join us. So they played this new ad. Fox News is also putting out ridiculous stories like this, saying Russia is interfering in the 2024 election to help Trump, says U.S. intelligence officials. So Russia is going to be colluding with Trump again. We already saw this episode. We went through a whole season of this. And they're doing it again. Another story on this, Russian assassination plot almost took out somebody in Ukraine. Okay, right as Zelensky comes to beg for more money. And Trump is apparently meeting with Viktor Orban out of Poland. And all of that is what's hitting the news out there today. So they're bringing back that old meme. And then we've got Biden's big boy conference. We already know that John Kirby and Karine Jean-Pierre were humiliating him about this. We don't know how long the press conference is going to be, but it was already delayed. And so we'll wait for that to get started and then we'll tune in on it. But as I mentioned at the start of this thing, it is delayed and we don't really know why it is. But Biden's, as you can see, high stakes big boy press conference was delayed, so it might miss the evening news broadcast. And so it was already scheduled for 5:30 and then they postponed it. So it's the first formal solo press conference in Washington since 2022. Wow. He's going to address calls to bow out of the 2024 race. It's already been delayed by 1 hour. Now it's scheduled to begin at 6:30 p.m. No, sorry, got delayed again. Now it's at 7 p.m. Great. Thanks, Joe. Probably have to pump him up full of more methamphetamines. So the new time means that clips of the 81-year-old president stumbling again or even exceeding expectations likely won't be ready in time for all the network news. White House official told the Post that the delay was due to the NATO schedule, so probably Putin's fault again, which also began later than expected on Thursday. Democrats who support Biden are anxious, and this will be the first time formally facing a room full of reporters in Washington since November 2022. Woo! And so the journalists are going to come out there with their trash bags and their wood chippers, and they're just going to get ready. Says, I feel like the narrative needs to change, says someone. So either Dems need to get behind Biden or he needs to step aside, but we're losing time. And they're slowly just bleeding out. So, all right, anyways, we're going to continue to cover it, of course. And we'll wait for this to happen. Someone said, I've heard folks around him are more and more dug in. It's just hard to know because the circle's getting smaller. And White House Press Secretary Karine Jean has repeatedly referred to the event as a big boy press conference. I think she thinks that's fun or something. She says many reporters are going to be called upon. The phrase is irking some fellow West Wing staffers who view it as infantilizing the commander-in-chief. I mean, it's honestly, it's one of the most accurate things Karine has said this entire tenure since she's been in office. It's accurate. She's actually making fun of him like we do. Maybe he's going to cut his own chicken nuggets tonight, you know? Dr. Jill won't have to help him with that. So she's saying the same thing. Obviously, I can't believe that she's even saying it. I can't believe someone hasn't told her. Hey, do you know it makes us sound like we're idiots? You're actually mocking him and humiliating him in front of everybody. She probably thinks it's funny. She's a communications expert. Incredible. So Biden advocates hope he will provide a lucid and forceful defense of his performance, plans for another 4 years, but I'm not so sure it's going to go that way. The president told Democratic governors at the White House last week that after the debate, he had decided to prevent recurrences of ongoing problems by going to bed by 8 o'clock p.m. sharp. No story times Joey. Past your bedtime, okay? One more page, Mom. No. Get to bed, son. All right, so hopefully they tuck him in nice and tight. Now, still, some Democrats predicted that even a solid performance wouldn't stop the bleeding. Richie Torres says, the notion that he's going to be saved by some interview misses the forest for the trees. The dude has no brain, which we figured out, I don't know, 5 years ago, but they're finally coming around on it. At a hastily arranged and brief February 8 appearance, Biden sought to challenge Robert Hur's description of him as an elderly man with a poor memory and all that stuff. And so you can see this is coming up. We've got a bunch to get to. We're going to just continue to wait to see if there's any other coverage that's happening of this press briefing right now. So, for example, the White House has theirs, which will be starting at about 3:30. So we'll keep our eyes on what's happening. They just got theirs scheduled, so that will start in about 18 minutes or so. And we'll keep poking around. So as you can see, we've got some stuff that we can attend to before we get into the big boy press conference, probably starting in about 40, 50 minutes from now. And so we'll do that. But before we get into this, you probably have seen this story. I think we might have an answer to what happened with Joe Biden's debate performance. It's bird flu. Not even kidding. Check this out. Bird flu has been invading the brains of mammals. Might be it. Could be the whole problem right there. Here's why. H5N1 and its relatives are more likely to infect the brain tissue than any other kinds of flu. So that could be it, my friends. I don't even know what else to say about it. It's Joe Biden's brain. He said it was his brain in the first place. So hopefully they've gotten prepared for it. I know he's the president, but they're kind of dumb. I don't know if they've been smart enough to go over to the wellness company, link down in the description below. And if they've been able to get their prescription contagion emergency kit, only available via the wellness company. It's got an assortment of all sorts of good stuff in there that can treat respiratory illnesses, things like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, Z-Pak, Tamiflu, budesonide, nebulizers, all sorts of stuff in there. It's got a guidebook so you can have emergency meds on hand and know how to use them. You know it's backed by people like Dr. Peter McCullough, research from those guys, very smart stuff. Every American should have at least one of these babies in their home. You can get yours. Very simple. Couldn't be easier. 2 minutes or less. Go to twc.health/Robert. Use code Robert. When you check out, you're going to save money and you're going to get free shipping. And you can safeguard your health today by going to the wellness company. It's a prescription kit, only available in the USA. I've got mine. Hopefully Joe Biden has his so that his brain starts to function for the next debate. All right, links are in the description below. Thanks for supporting our sponsors on the day, my friends. Now, without any further ado, let's get into business on the day. The Biden campaign is testing Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump in the 2024 election. We'll see if that works out for him. But the numbers might cause them to make a change. Are they going to suddenly say Kamala's better than Joe and say, Joe, you got to step aside? The Biden campaign would do that to themselves? Or is it more likely that they're going to show that Kamala is a disaster herself and would be terrible to put up against Donald Trump? She might even lose more than Biden. So Joe could poll Kamala and support his continued attempt at the presidency. Now, this was breaking news. A lot of people saying, well, maybe they're going to make a change. Maybe this means something. Maybe this could be a hint to Joe that he should change course. Somebody just needs to talk to him. We've already seen this happen many times. Many Democrats, like Nancy Pelosi and others, saying, well, there's still time for him to decide. We all say, hey, he's already written a letter. His campaign spokesman has come out. Jill has come out. Kamala's coming out. They're all saying he's not going anywhere. So what makes you think it's going to change? Maybe the polling that shows Kamala is going to obliterate Trump will help. They wish. Here is what the report says.
What the reporting is, it involves the Biden campaign, and they are assessing the viability of a candidacy by the vice president. Let me bring in Monica Alba. Monica, what can you tell us about how they're looking at Kamala Harris and why?
Well, NBC News is confirming this was first reported by the New York Times, Chris. But what's significant here is that I'm told by a source that's familiar with this testing that is going on this week that this is being done in the context of trying to assess how she would fare against the presumptive Republican nominee as a direct result of what we have seen Donald Trump do in the last couple of days, which is to step up his attacks against her specifically, given there are questions about whether Joe Biden will still be the Democratic nominee in November. He insists that he will, but of course we know, as you were just discussing, because of this pressure from other Democrats and lawmakers, that there could be a change here if the president decides to step aside. So the Biden campaign is doing this. I understand that this is being commissioned by the Biden campaign's own analytics team.
Ooh.
And importantly, and what we should point out here, and what a Democratic operative told us, is that essentially this is something you would be doing if you're trying to give a message to President Biden to sort of test how the vice president would do and whether she may fare better, worse, or the same as he is doing in the current polling. That this would be a data point that you could maybe show to the president as he, in the weeks ahead, could potentially have difficult conversations about his candidacy. Again, the Biden campaign is saying that he is full steam ahead. That is what they're certainly insisting publicly. But I think this is a concession that there are larger conversations going on about if there would be a change at the top of the ticket, and that the natural person, as we've been talking about, the mechanisms for how this would work, would be Vice President Kamala Harris. So that is the next sort of part of this story in terms of how she would do. And there has been some polling out there already where they've been trying to sort of test how she would do against Donald Trump. But obviously the Biden team, for their own interests, wants to have their own assessment. And that is why they're going to be continuing with that polling. It sounds like at least this week, and then we'll see what the actual results of that. But we should also point out, Chris, that according to a memo that we obtained today, the Biden campaign and senior advisors are saying that, yes, they're acknowledging there has been real movement in what we've seen in the polls, certainly in those battleground states since the disastrous debate performance 2 weeks ago. But they're insisting that it doesn't amount to a sea change in the state of the race. And so, again, they are trying to argue that Joe Biden is still their candidate, still the nominee, still the person that they're going to go on this journey with. But it is notable that they are zooming out and taking this larger picture should that change.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's going to be curious to see what those numbers show. I have not seen any numbers anywhere that show Kamala is going to rout Trump in 2024. In fact, I don't think there are numbers like that anywhere for anybody, which is the problem for them. If they had a candidate, they'd already have a candidate. If they had somebody who could come in here and change this course for them, they'd have done it already. They'd be clamoring for somebody. Anybody. There's even people saying Michelle's going to come and do it. And they're like, no, we're not. It's not going to be Michelle. Right. But they don't have anybody. If they had someone that was 10 points up on Trump, we'd already know who that person is. So the idea that it's not going to be Kamala Harris is also insane. She would have to step aside. It would have to be Joe goes, in which case, if Joe goes, then there's a big question from everybody. Why did you let Joe, who was clearly demented, stick around for so long? So they're not really going to want to do that. But if that happens, Kamala inherits it. She would have to step aside, right, to clear the path for a bunch of other Democratic vultures to snipe at each other for that spot. And they're going to do that in 4 months? I don't think so. So the alternative, of course, is they come back to Joe. They show him that Kamala is not going to beat Trump. Trump is maybe still even, right? Democrats, they'll fall back in line behind Joe Biden. They'll forget the whole dementia thing. They'll just do what they're told. That's what they do. They need it. They crave it. Tell me what to do, Daddy. Okay, government says do that. All right. And it's constant. So they'll come back. And you'll probably hear even Jake Tapper forget a lot of this later down the line because that's just what they do. They'll just treat it like a bad news cycle. But it will support Joe Biden. He'll say, Kamala's going to lose too. So why would I go anywhere? And he won't, which we hope he doesn't. So that's what is happening on MSNBC. Now, there's also some clips of Kamala. Here is what our next candidate might be sharing with us. And get ready to be inspired, America. Here is your new Democratic nominee, maybe.
As some of you may know, my parents met while they were active in the civil rights movement.
Oh, this is a protest. Okay, so that was not very inspirational. That was a protest that took place there. I think this is the inspirational clip here. So brace yourselves. Now you must be inspired from our new potential Democrat nominee, Kamala Harris, who, to be fair, I keep making the point that Joe Biden is very representative of Democrats. That's why they like him so much, because he represents who they are and how they are, their character and their integrity and their intelligence and their speaking capabilities and all the things. It's perfect representation. But if Joe Biden is not at number one, another good representative for Democrats, all of them in America, is Kamala Harris. Get ready to be inspired, America. Here it comes.
They taught us that we could do anything.
Yes.
And should never be burdened by the limitations of other people to be able or not be able to see what can be.
Yes.
And this is that community who understands and can see what is possible unburdened by what
Has been. Yes.
They taught us that
Oh, she nailed that line. I got goosebumps all over the place. Unburdened by what has been, so we can be burdened by new burdens to come under the Biden regime. All right, so that's Kamala. I can't wait for her to run. So, I mean, either way, it doesn't matter. Like, they're doomed. It's not looking good for them. And they're going to try to rig it. Kamala at least brings in a plausibility. At least, we activated the first female African-American. Yeah. And there's a whole new contingent, and they have some fake narrative. But with Joe Biden, they don't have that. So anyways, the media is furious. They're not happy with this at all. And so as Joe Biden is getting prepared for his big boy press conference, there's all these leaks coming out all over the place. And it's just a ton of fun to watch. I don't think we've seen anything quite like this. Now you have CNN and Jake Tapper, the very entities that were covering up for Joe for the last 3 years, are now just tearing him down, shredding him to bits. So here, this is CNN. Now they're putting all their dirty laundry out there all over the place for everybody to see. It's amazing.
According to two sources,
Yeah.
before cabinet meetings that the president attends, cabinet officials will submit their questions and talking points, key talking points and bullet points that they plan to present to the president in these closed door meetings. This is how one source described it. They said the entire display is kind of an act. They would come and say, hey, the president is going to call on you about 25 minutes in and ask this question: what are the bullet points that you'll respond with? Now, the White House's defense has been that that is standard practice for any administration. They said in a setting like this, you never want the president to be not aware of what is going to be discussed. They want to also just be mindful of the president's time. But we also spoke with sources from the Obama years who said in the cabinet meetings for former President Barack Obama, those were never this meticulously scripted.
Obviously, okay. What a ridiculous joke. Yeah, it's all just normal operating procedures. And the story is even worse than what she displayed there. Let me share this with you. You'll notice CNN has more details on this, telling us that a star-studded fundraiser was pretty rough, and they are now angry and stunned. They're blaming Biden's closest advisors from shielding the public from the full extent of the president's decline. It's like, well, I mean, they attempted to shield us from it, but we could see it because we just opened our eyes and just looked and watched him. That's all. I don't know what else you need for that. It's like, do you want an explainer? Should somebody get some crayons out here for you and draw it for you? Angry Democrats? Gosh, just open your eyes and watch him for 5 minutes. You'll understand. But they didn't want to do that. You have to take the delusion blinders off. But even before Biden made remarks, there were whispers of concerns rippling through the audience at Peacock Theater. Some of the biggest donors, they still raised $30 million. All these people are sitting around. Nobody wants to say anything because they're, cowardly. And then they're all just like writing checks. Everybody's like looking at each other with side eyes, like, are you actually writing? Did he sign his check? Did he actually sign it, though? Yeah, honey, I think he signed it. Shoot, are you serious? What about him? Did he sign it? Yeah, I guess he signed it. Everybody's looking at each other. Okay, are you signing your check? Okay, I guess we're all doing this. I don't know what we're doing here, but let's do it. It's like a bad decision in college. Okay. You sure he's okay? You sure he's okay to drive the White House? Yeah, he's fine. I've seen him do it before. Okay, all right. Well, good luck. He was less cogent than usual, said one attendee. Biden's appearance in California struck attendees. Someone said there's a marked difference in the president from the spring to the summer. Okay, he's just not the same. Yeah, brain went bye-bye. The entire display, watch this one. It says, back in Washington, there have been clear signs throughout the term of Biden being increasingly stage managed, with lists of talking points, names of questioners, and drawings of where he should walk, presented to him by aides. Ahead of closed-door cabinet meetings that Biden attends, it's customary for cabinet officials to submit questions and key talking points that they plan to present in front of Biden ahead of time to White House aides. The entire display is kind of an act, okay? Says they would come and say to the cabinet member, so this is like Mayorkas, Attorney General Garland, hey, the president's going to call on you in about 25 minutes, and he's going to ask this question, okay? And what are your bullet points that you're going to respond with? What are you going to say back? Then the second source who echoed the same, so it's just like it's like a show. It's like a play. Remember when you were in like 4th grade? You read these lines, you read these lines. They show up, they do it. And the meetings themselves are infrequent. One cabinet secretary telling CNN they're uncertain of Biden's condition. We don't even know him. We can't even see him. He's not like, they don't even talk to him. In fact, the last full cabinet meeting took place October 2nd, 2023. Sources said the cabinet meetings during the Obama years were not pre-scripted this way. Didn't happen. Even as the oldest president in history, Biden's halting performance is just going to get worse. CNN talked to more than 24 current and former Democratic officials, donors, and longtime allies, all of whom spoke on condition of anonymity to avoid alienating Biden because they don't want, we can't talk about this. We're petrified. What are they going to do to us? While it's clear the president had aged in the past year, none of them said that they had seen the version of him faltering and dazed that showed up at last month's debate. All of them are so dumb they can't perceive what we've been watching for years. In many of these conversations, sources blame the president's inner circle of advisors and the family for what they say has become a painstaking and a choreographed daily operation. It's like just a show presidency. There is a deep state that's running the country. There's this general sense that of just unbelievable holding your breath every time he does an event, every time he's with people. We're freaked out. We don't know what the heck is going on. The Democrat was blunt about this. He says this is going to get worse. Everyone who expresses any level of suspicion or contrary views, they call everyone and they beat the crap out of them. And they say, stay on message, just shut your mouth. At least one official involved in the Biden debate prep had doubts about his ability. It's not like the Biden inner circle didn't know this. We knew it. And we're not just guessing, shooting from the hip. We've watched it. Then they told us we were all liars and it was just cheap fakes. We were just making it up. Campaign officials have rejected Clooney and other donors' characterization. They say Biden's great. He's, doing cartwheels. But after 2 weeks of this, they said expect a drip, drip, drip. It's a crisis of historic importance, with growing fears among Democrats that it could drag down the entire party. They're petrified they're going to lose it all. It's erosion across the board. For Biden himself, the coming days are pivotal. The news conference on Thursday today is going to be highly scrutinized. They don't really have a plan B. Who's it going to be? Kamala? She's the only one who could get the money. You can see these are the people who are all in for Biden. Here's a nice little graphic here. Chuck Schumer's all in. Hakeem's all in. It's up to Biden is Pelosi. Richie Torres says Biden won't win. And then you have the Hollywood crew all saying Biden should drop out. And Joe's got the votes. He's got the delegates. And he represents the Democrats perfectly. So he should stay in. Klain said he's the sitting president of the United States. What do you want me to do? That's a weird response. Someone said, as attendees rode a bus to another venue to hear Obama deliver a speech, the chatter turned to Emmanuel's outburst and shared the view that Biden in 80 was getting in over his skis. Someone said, why doesn't anyone protect this man? No one would confirm that exchange. Well, yeah, they say he's declined. We've all noticed it, but they all lied to us for many, many years in order to do that. So the media, as I mentioned, is furious. Here was a fun exchange between Jake Tapper and CNN and this woman. Here's another leak from her. She's explaining how bad Joe Biden has gotten.
Jessica, we spoke with dozens of Democratic strategists, aides, officials across the Biden administration and across the party at large. And there was one consistent theme, and that was widespread anger and sadness at seeing the president's decline on full display on the debate stage 2 weeks ago after what they chalk up to careful choreography among the president's closest advisors to shield him from public view over the last year, or potentially before that. Now, Democrats here in the U.S. tell CNN that when they tried to raise concerns about Biden's age, they were dismissed or worse. And overseas officials tell us that when Biden attended events on the world stage, he appeared exhausted, sometimes needing scheduled downtime. Or Jessica.
CNN's going hard, man. So they're lacing into him. And Jake Tapper was also doing the same thing. So as I mentioned, they had this story where Joe Biden called into a radio show. Now, they sent the radio show a bunch of pre-scripted questions. Ask Joe this, and he'll be able to respond to that one. And they sent that in, and then the radio show explained that to CNN. They said, well, why'd you do that? And they said, well, it's just journalistic, whatever. Turns out they also edited that interview before it went live. Now, Jake Tapper is going to blast him over this, as he should. But would he have done this 3 months ago? Answer, no.
President Biden called in for a radio interview, one of these interviews done to kind of quell concerns and show the president was fine and completely on point. After he did that call, the Biden campaign called that station, asking them to edit out 2 of his answers. Civic Media, Wisconsin Progressive Talk Radio Network, acknowledged that staff took out the Biden campaign's suggested edits, deleting 2 answers from the president's July 3rd interview with host Earl Ingram. The first answer is Biden said, quote, I have more blacks in my administration than any other president, all other presidents combined, and in major positions, cabinet positions. Obviously not an accurate thing to say. The second, when Biden was talking about Trump's past comments about the Central Park.
So was that fake news? Was that a lie? Was that dishonest? What was that? Obviously not accurate. It's also kind of an interesting statement in general. Is that still appropriate? Are you still supposed to talk like that now in 2024? I have no idea. I don't know what's allowed anymore. So, I mean, we don't really pay much mind to it. But are you allowed to say that? Is the president allowed to say, I have the most blacks? Is that what you can say? I have more blacks. Joe Biden. I have more blacks than any other person president. Okay, that's a weird thing to say. But, I mean, I understand what he's saying. I understand the concept. But I don't know. Are you allowed to say that? Is that okay or not? I don't know. But apparently it's not accurate. So it's a lie either way. As you can see, there's the full statement there. So I don't know if that's going to matter at all. But Jake Tapper is certainly calling it out.
And in major positions, cabinet positions.
Yeah.
Obviously not an accurate thing to say. The second, when Biden was talking about Trump's past comments about the Central Park 5, and we should note, like, this is a big journalism no editing out an answer because the politician in his campaign didn't like it, or they didn't like how he came across. I don't know exactly the reason. We'll find out from the Biden campaign maybe someday.
No, you won't. So he's like totally exasperated. I mean, I don't know why they edited it out. Give me a break, Jake. Are you telling me that you guys don't edit out your stupid interviews with your little scam Democrats? Come on, you're all editing stuff. Now, here's what it sounded like when Joe Biden says he has all the blacks of America in his campaign or whatever. Here's the exchange. So Alex Thompson grabbed this. Here's the audio that the Biden team asked to be removed from the president's interview. The 2 edits were here, and here's one of them. They wanted this removed. At 5:20, they wanted this removed. Removal of this phrase. Here's from Joe.
In addition to that, I have more blacks in my administration than any other president, all of the presidents combined, and major positions, cabinet positions.
All right. So that's the statement. And I don't know why they deleted it. And the other one at the time at 14:15 in reference to Trump's call for the death penalty for the Central Park 5, the removal of, quote, I don't know if they even call for their hanging or not, but they said ... convicted of murder. So hanging or not. Did Trump call for the hanging of the Central Park 5? Is that where this is going? So they deleted that too. All right. So, all right. Well, we can't wait for Joe Biden to come out and start talking again. And we're excited to see what that looks like when that drops, but has not gotten underway as of yet. We're still waiting for the president to speak, if that happens anytime soon. But as you can see, Tapper's unhappy about it, really lacing into him. And they also have a bunch of senators who are getting asked about this, other people on the Hill What's their reaction with Joe? Should he stick around or should he go? Manu Raju reports from CNN. He was talking to Manchin out there. Here's what Manchin said after meeting on the Hill.
Do you think your colleagues' concerns have been addressed after this meeting?
What's that now?
Do you think your colleagues' concerns have been addressed after meeting with these campaign officials?
Well, I mean, they got an awful lot of questions, and they got a lot of questions answered.
Did they suggest at all that he may drop out? Was there any suggestion?
Not at all.
Not at all. They're saying he's 100% running.
Everything that I heard in there.
And were there any of your colleagues?
So why do they keep asking about it? Yes, he's running. He said he's running. Dr. Jill, who was your favorite person until like 3 weeks ago, she said he's running. Kamala's in. Schumer's in. They put out a statement. They've got surrogates all over the place. Stop asking about it. Just move on.
Did any of your colleagues urge him to drop out?
Very good meeting.
So, I mean, that...
you on whether you believe Biden can win? Senators have any say in this?
Now, you know I don't run away from the press, right? I gotta go. I gotta go.
But can you just say, was there anybody who said he should step aside for the good of the country?
It's very, very
Senator, do you think he should step aside for the good of the country?
very good.
Are you gonna?
I'm just wishing for the health and welfare of the president.
Have you spoken to him personally?
I have not.
Are you planning to?
Sure am.
When? This weekend?
Slam the door on him. Get out of here. All right, so Manchin, he says Joe's staying in, man. He's staying in, not going anywhere, which is good news. We think he should stay in. And here was another exchange from someone else outside the Capitol. C-SPAN was reporting this from Senator Bennett. He's from Colorado. Says, question, should Joe Biden stay in the race? Do you think there's anyone with President? There is one on a clear path to victory. Should have read that part. Do you believe that there is a clear path to victory with President Biden on the ticket is the question. Here is the answer.
I don't want to prejudge what they're going to say. We'll see. I think what's on everybody's mind is there a clear path to victory here? And can we honestly say that we're on a path to defeating Donald Trump and holding on to the Senate and holding on to the House of Representatives?
Do you believe that there is one with President Biden on the Democratic ticket?
What I've said is that I think that I think if things stay as they are, it's likely that Donald Trump will win the election and that we'll lose the Senate and we'll lose the House.
Are you watching the press conference tonight? Or
Sorry?
Are you watching the press conference tonight?
Of course.
Or does that matter?
No, yeah, everything matters. Everything matters.
Are you at a decision point here where you might make the move instead of just saying that you think that he'll lose, but that he should withdraw?
This is not a decision for me to make.
But if you called for him to withdraw, that would be a notable thing for you to say.
Let's have I'm looking forward to the conversation we're going to have, and I appreciate that we're going to have this conversation.
You wish Biden was here. Biden's not here.
Thank you for stopping, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for stopping.
Thank you.
All right, so a bunch of people just really don't want to answer this one way or the other. We know it's basically impossible for them to answer. If they say that Joe Biden has to go or that they don't support him for re-election, then that is a statement of lacking faith. You're saying that his leadership capability right now is not reassuring enough to have you endorse him for a second term. So he has to demur. He can't say, I stand behind him, because he knows that's not the right answer. And he can't say he has to go. And this is their own doing, by the way. Nobody forced them into this. They could have had an open primary. They had other candidates running. We knew everybody was screaming, pounding the table all over the country, saying that Joe Biden was gone. They told us we were liars and idiots and said it was cheap fakes and we were dishonest about it. Well, now they picked their candidate. They knew what was going on. Now they're playing dumb. No. So, all right, eat it, I guess. Here is what Hakeem Jeffries says. And I don't know why he keeps going through this. Joe Biden has been clear and unequivocal. He is running.
Jeffries. NBC News just in the last few minutes moved some reporting that several of President Biden's closest allies now say that he has zero chances of winning. A direct quote is, he needs to drop out from one Biden campaign official. He will never recover from this. After the week and a half that we've had, do you agree? Is it time?
Throughout this week, as House Democrats, we have engaged in a process of talking to each other. Those conversations have been candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed.
Wow.
And they continue.
Wow. 3 C words. Candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed. And look how happy he is that he just nailed that. You see that look on his face, man? He's like, got it. Woo, that's good. So well done. I don't know who wrote that for him, but it's pretty good. He get it. He got it. 3, it's good. It's, the triad, the trinity. You want the 3s. It's good cadence, good alliteration. It's good. Well done.
Continue until that process has concluded. I'm not going to address what any outside stakeholders may have to say about this
But
matter.
sir, how much longer can you allow the griping to go on?
Didn't you hear me? I already said 3 C words. What's your follow-up about?
Before it ultimately wounds him.
House Democrats, Senate Democrats, and President Biden are unified on the affirmative agenda that we have for the American people related to lowering housing costs or ending price gouging or growing the middle class, defending democracy, and fighting for reproductive freedom. Okay. President Biden, House Democrats, and Senate Democrats are also united in pushing back against Project 2025 and the extreme MAGA Republican agenda. That's unifying, not dividing us.
Leader Jeffries.
Didn't answer anything.
President Biden has said he's staying in this race, but after your conversations throughout this week, do you think it's time for him to reconsider that based on what you're hearing?
Our conversations have been candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed, and they are ongoing.
Leader Jeffries, you said that.
He did it again. Candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed. That's communication 101 right there, my friends. Did you see what he did right there in that 2 minutes? He said literally nothing. That's all you need to do is just remember 3 words. And you can basically get around everything. You see that? It's pretty good. Pretty good. So the Republicans could use some training on that, by the way. I mean, like literally, because that's good. He said nothing. And it sounded good. You're like, wow, clear-eyed, comprehensive, and candid. Wow. Those are amazing. What? Anyways, I don't know. At least they're comprehensive. That sounds good. So, all right, we have such a dumb system. Look at all these people. Ah! What other letters do you have? What other letters? Anything else? All right, so amazing. Wow, incredible. That's our government. Oh, no. All right. So, all right, that's what is happening. Kamala Harris is going to race to the front of the pack, lead the Democrats to victory, and we're looking forward to seeing that. So, Trump campaign now gearing up for Kamala, I guess, because Biden is testing it. We'll see where it goes. All right, now, before, it looks like we still don't have anything cooking over at the White House, so just as a little heads up, nothing's over here. We're 5 minutes away, Fox says, but I doubt that. So let's talk about this Russian stuff, because what Joe Biden is going to tell us is that he is focused on stopping Russia. Joe Biden posted this saying that Donald Trump is Putin's lapdog. We remember this because Joe Biden has said this many episodes before. We've already seen the show many times. We're sick of it, but they're regurgitating it because they have nothing else to talk about. So they just are resurrecting the old Russia collusion hoax thing again. Joe Biden's at NATO, so he says, I'll never bow down to dictators, even though he has become one and is now prosecuting his political opponents all throughout America. So he posted a new ad on this. But I just wanted to flag this for us here because you'll notice nothing comes singularly, right? Things come in patterns, in pairs, in triplets, in quadruplets, and so on. And so Fox News also is on this bandwagon. They said this in this ridiculous story: Russia interfering in 2024 election to help Trump, U.S. election officials say. And if you open that article, which we will, I'll share with you what a stupid article it is. It has no information in it at all. They also shared this one. Russian assassination plot is underway. And we also saw that the media is pounding this one, that Trump is now meeting with Orban of Poland. And you know who he met with? Putin. So they're going to do this all again. They're going to say there's a national security emergency or something. Russians are already interfering. Fox News is posting this. Let me show you this story. Answers nothing for us, but they're sharing this around. People are mocking them. It's 1 million views over on X, and it has no information. You'll see it was written by this guy, Michael Dorgan. Says Russia interfering in 2024 election to help Trump. Now, who said this? U.S. intelligence officials. Wouldn't you like to know who they are, what their names are? I would. Let's see if we can find them. Officials with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence have warned that Russia has launched a plan to interfere in the 2024 election to bolster the chances of President Trump being reelected. Oh, man. So they probably, should censor all of us again? And maybe lock the country down for whatever reason? In a briefing with reporters on Tuesday, ODNI officials, again, question mark, who, said that Russia is the preeminent threat to the election. Again. And that while China is not going to plan to influence the outcome of the presidential race, that's nice that China told them that. Hey, are you guys going to interfere in our election, China? No, not over here. No, we love America. Okay, good. We thought so. It's only Putin, probably. So that's what our DNI is doing as well. China's not going to influence us. Whew, that's good. And it's all the tactics, they say, that we've seen before, primarily through social media, efforts using influential U.S. voices to amplify their narratives, and other tactics, the official said. Who? Don't know. And as far as who they're targeting, what we can say is Russia is sophisticated enough to know that. Targeting swing state voters is particularly valuable to them. The Russians are going to interfere in the swing states. Maybe Biden will never leave. Officials said that the intelligence community expects Russia will increase its activities to manipulate the public opinion all across America. Not like they did that with their cheap fake narratives, lying to us for the last 3.5 years. We could actually use a little Russian information, because I'm curious what they say about stuff, because our own media and our own government is filled with liars. Although former President Trump was not named specifically, ODNI officials said that Russian interference is mimicking what it says were similar preferences in previous cycles. So they're just doing the same thing, just regurgitating that right out of the old dumpster. The Kremlin, officials said, is seeking to influence specific voting groups in swing states, as well as looking to promote divisive narratives and denigrate specific politicians. Now, this is a twofold problem here. I think it's interesting, one, that the ODNI is doing this again. We suspected that they would. But it's also interesting that Fox is regurgitating this, boosting this all over the place. An official said that it's not even a real article. It's just some people, it sounds like, speculating and making up stuff about Russia. They already, look, they already said this, and they were proven wrong. They said Trump colluded with Russia. Never happened. They said Russia tried to interfere in 2016. It was like 10,000. I mean, okay, like if you wanted to say like Russia did something or something, you could make that case, fine. Was it of any consequence at all to the election? That case is, you cannot make that at all from any evidence that I've seen. So they just take a narrative, and there's like Facebook ads that some entity ran that looked ridiculous, that nobody saw. And this article even admits that, by the way. So Fox News, all the way at the bottom here, admits this. They say, look, one of the fake messages that was posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, in 2023 that they're so freaked out about, included a video of Pootie Poo justifying the country's actions in Ukraine, although the video contained only a handful of views. National security emergency. It's like big deal. I don't care if Putin pays for information or post information on the internet, fake messages. I don't give a crap about fake messages. Most of the stuff we read from CNN is fake messaging. That's it. So we have to use our own faculties. Putin can put fake crap all over the place. I don't care. I'm going to use logic and reason to look at it, not take his word for it, just like we don't take CNN's word for it or Fox News' word for it. That's how a person should think and operate, not just go and follow whatever Jake Tapper says. So the point is, it's a strange thing. I like noticing patterns. There's a big one that was standing out as I was perusing today. Of course, NATO's in season, but here's just another headline. Russian assassination plot, another one from CNN. Exclusive! U.S. and Germany foil the Russian plot to assassinate a CEO of an arms manufacturer in Ukraine. Oh, wow, another one. So it's like, wow, they're just like hitting you in the face with it. Russia, 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 Russia. U.S. intelligence discovered earlier this year that the Russian government Okay, who? Putin again? Plan to assassinate the chief executive of a German's arms manufacturer, someone in Ukraine. And all these stories pop right around the time NATO's here. Very fun. So it's like all the CIA assets are hanging around with all the CNN assets, and they're all just probably going to cocktail hour together, and then they write articles the next day. So it's one after the other, and here's the final one. Trump is also going to meet with Orban. Oh, no. Here's what they posted over at The Guardian. And these headlines are funny. Hungary's Viktor Orban to meet with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Now, he's snubbing Biden, so Orban is. But Orban has enraged his NATO allies because he met with Vladimir Putin and Xi en route to the alliance's summit. Then he met with Zelensky, and then he's negotiating his own terms. So then he's going to fly down and meet with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. And a lot of people on X, or the Biden people, he's meeting with him, and he's got sympathies to Putin. And the Russian narrative is back again. So season 2 has returned, and we're here for it. So continue to watch that pattern develop. We're going to watch a lot more of it. I can't wait for some sort of black swan event to happen that will justify them censoring us all again in the name of protecting us from Russia. All right, and so we're checking back in. We're seeing what's cooking right now. We still have the White House saying that they're going to begin shortly. Let's see what C-SPAN has cooking, if they've got any video footage on. We've got some, looks like, conversation over on Fox News Live. Let's see. It looks like they might be gearing up for this thing. They have somebody at the podium. So let's see what they've got for us.
But in the meantime here, we're going to keep going with some of our coverage. We're going to leave this shot up there. Let's take that full.
So that guy looks like he's
testing
testing the
some
mic.
of the speakers, some of the handlers getting that shot.
Making sure he looks good. That guy has a little bit more life to him than Joe Biden does. They're like, hey, okay, you look great, but do we have a corpse? Does anybody have a corpse that we can put up there? Like, you should step aside. You look great, but what about a corpse? How does a corpse look? Yeah, it looks pretty good. All right, put some powder on it, and that'll do. So we'll keep our eye on when our demented president comes out to speak. In the meantime, my friends, let's say hello to you, and let's see what you have to say about some of this. I saw some beautiful and incredible donos come in. Thank you so much for sending those in. And let's see who is joining us. I see, what's up, SCVM in the house? Nice to see you. We're waiting for Joe to come out. I was expecting him to speak about 30 minutes ago, but he has not done that, which is also very nice. Oh, look at this one. What a nice message. From our friend Donut Mind Me, says, happy Thursday. Wishing you a beautiful day. Right back at you there. Donut Mind Me. What a beautiful thing. All right, so my friends, we had some amazing donos come in. Let's see what you guys say about all this. B-Man is here as we're waiting for our president. He says, Crystal Ball tells me that when President Trump wins against Mr. Biden, they're going to go full force Russian and try to desertification the electoral votes. But I don't think they can because they changed the law. Yeah, they're going to try to do, decertification. Yes, I see. Yeah, so like Kamala Harris, there would be a contingent type of an election, something that happened in 2020 might happen again. The issue with that is that the Republicans control the House. My concern is that the Republicans would lose control of the House, and then they would lose power in a contingent election. But they currently have control of the House. Now, whether that goes over in Trump's favor or not is also yet to be seen. But it's a great point, B-Man. Thanks for the nice dono, my friend. Great to see you. Muffin Rando's in the house. Thanks for that one. Hey, it's the Munkets is here. What's up? Tony Hay Munkets bringing in 10 new membos. We've got Carl saying shout out to Tony Hay. And welcome aboard. 10 new membos from Tony Hay. Thanks for bringing them in. And thanks, Donut, for clipping those. Great to see you all. What's up? John McGarvey's in the house. Gifting 1 membo. Thank you, John, for bringing in a new membo. Welcome aboard, newest of membos. Hey, what's up? Question Everything is in the house. Is this Joe from earlier? Let's listen.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin.
What?
We're going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Thank you so much.
That's what the compact says. Loudly and clearly.
All right, so you heard that there, President Biden, with that slip up at the NATO summit. This is the Ukraine compact, the Ukraine element of the summit there. It's been a key feature for the last almost 72 hours. We have been speaking about it with some of our national security experts and analysts, talking about Ukraine's eventual and inevitable path.
All right, so they're talking a little bit more Ukraine. So we're still waiting for Joe to come out, and I've got my eyes on also what the White House has for us. And so we'll see if they're on time. Anyone want to take an over/under on time? You think they're going to be on time? On time, under 15 minutes late, or over 15 minutes late? What's the over/under? Over 15 minutes late or under 15 minutes late, or on time? He could still be on time at 4 p.m. We don't know. Who knows? So they're still gearing up. You can see they're doing a little light test because that's what Joe Biden's skin's going to look like. So they don't have a corpse that they're going to bring out, but they are going to test it against a white sheet of paper, which is basically like a dead inanimate object, which is about what Joe Biden looks like. So it's kind of the same thing. All right. So we got feed goes dead. All right. We're back. Yeah. Joe looks a little different today, doesn't he? That's Joe Biden. It's great to be president. All right, so 15 late. So if he's 15 minutes late, that's a push. So if he shows up at 4:01 between 4:14, that's the under. If he shows up after 15 minutes late, that's the over. So you can pick. So Sergeant GPS says 30 minutes late, so he's taking the over. 17, that's the over from Jeremiah. Zach's got a 50 spot on 15 late. So we'll say that's probably an over. We'll go with an over on that. If it's 15, like it's 15 on the dot, it's like 15:01, it's over. Michael B says over by 30, late by 30. We have NGD's taking the over. Lisa Faye's taking the over by 25. Yeah, interesting. All right, so we'll see. The over-under is at 15. 15 minutes late, so that's how it works. A bunch of overs. Canceled, someone says. It's canceled. Over by 7, so that's the under then. So, all right, yeah, so we'll see. We got about 3 minutes left, and we'll see. So if he's out by 4:15 our time or 7:15 Eastern time, that's the under. If it's 7:15 and beyond, that's the over. And so we'll keep our eye on what's happening over there. But the White House, I still think, doesn't have anything quite yet. So this is also live. This is what the White House looks like. Nothing from them at the moment. But this could be rough. I mean, the individuals in the media who get the questions, they could be looking for blood, right? This could be like that scene in Gladiator where they try to throw Maximus Decimus Aurelius. Maximus Decimus Aurelius, right? Something. Anyways, he was thrown into the Colosseum with the lions. Joe Biden is not Maximus Decimus Meridius, though. That's for sure. That's for sure. Hey, what's up? Okay, question everything is in the house. Gifting one new membo. Thanks for doing that. Golden Gaming is here. Meridius. There it is. Thanks, John. Thank you for that. I'm embarrassed that I didn't know that. I'm embarrassed. Hey, because I've seen that movie, I don't know, at least 1,000 times probably. Golden Gaming, what's up? Membo for 15 months says Biden just introed Zelensky as Putin. We just saw that clip. Unbelievable. You don't want to do that. Hey, what's up? Drek Nevetsky says, be nice to your local HVAC techs. Okay, we suffer for you. That is true. Think about the guys in the roofs right now. You're hot in your air-conditioned house. You go to your car, you're like, oh, it's so hot in here. Think about the guys in the roofs. They're melting. I don't even know how they do it. What's up, Voice of the People says, you know what? I'm dropping this a little early, but you asked for it, my friends. This is great news, America. We made it happen. Next Thursday on 7/18, so 1 week from today, join us off-label podcast because our one and only very amazing Kay Bean, who mods down the fort for us here every day, will be sitting down with us to speak her mind. It's going to be good. We got to meet Kay Bean. We got to meet in Vegas. It was awesome. She's great, and voice is great. So come show her some love, my friends. Go check that out. Off-label podcast is the name, and it's going to be amazing. Yeah, and good to see you. Voice of the people. HVAC's in the ceilings, right? It's in the roof. You got to run the duct and all the stuff through the ceilings. Hey, what's up, voice of the people? Hey, 10 membos coming in. Hey, is YouTube not telling the membos, like who got gifted membos? Is that a thing? Are we not seeing that? Just wondering if we are or not. Because I'm not shouting out the membos. I'm just wondering if that has changed or not. I'm looking at my chat and I can't tell. Yeah, I think it is. Yes, because I just saw Dolphin Fan. They took the names away? They got sick of me reading them all? Dolphin Fan is the man, just gifted 5 membos, but I can't see. Did anybody get those? Here, maybe I have to change this setting. Not showing it, huh? So how do you know if you won? How do you know if you got a membo? Okay, the time is now 4 o'clock. So the clock starts now. He is not on time as far as we can tell. And in fact, the White House feed is not even started yet. So the gamble is now on. The bet is 15 minutes is the over-under. And you can take the over or the under. If you think he's going to show up at minute 7, like at 4:07 or 4:15 or 4:14, you would take the under. If it's 15, then you take the after. So if it's like he shows up 17 minutes late, you take the after, you won. But what happened to our membos? That's terrible news. John says you supposedly get an email now. And yeah, Kay Bean is she's on Voice of the People next week on Thursday. Kay Bean will be there next Thursday. So 15, if he's 15 over, right? So if you say 15, we're presuming that's the over. Unless he comes out at like 15 seconds, then that's, or like 15 minutes, and I said maybe that's a push. But 15 and 30 seconds or 15 and 20 seconds, that's the over. Good to see you, Voice. Hey, so welcome aboard, 10 new membos. I don't know who you are, and I'm not happy about that, actually. I'm not happy about that at all. I want to welcome our new membos. That's like YouTube. Ugh. They didn't like how much fun we were having, so they stopped that. Thanks, guys. Hey, Viva Maga's this one, sharing this one. Yeah, moments ago at a NATO event, Biden introduced Zelensky as Putin. Thank God he caught himself. But yeah, it's bad. Everyone on that stage is going, oh, we're done. Ray Ronk says the bird flu equals the boy who cried wolf. That's probably a good analogy. I mean, I think that's kind of what it's been for a long time until it's not. I think that's the problem. I think that's the moral of the story, right? It's like you cry wolf until there's a real thing, and then it hits you. So the moral of the story, it's not a happy ending for that boy. Hey, what's up, Lenny Malley? Thanks for reminding people to hit that like button. I do appreciate that. And my friends, if you have it in you, we'd appreciate it. This one from Stop Sniffing Kids, Joe. Been a member for 13 months, says Rob, love your show. And the salt is getting deep. There has been so much. Okay, here we go. Do we have anything coming up?
Like Harris versus Trump,
403.
She does worse in them than Biden does. And that is what the Biden campaign has alluded to as to why they're sticking with Biden, why they're staying the course as well here. So
that's probably why they want the polls.
Looks like we got our shot back up there. We're trying out some of these interesting polling questions. You can scan your QR code there. Visit livenowfox.com/connect.
Oh, that's
Answer that question.
Fun.
Should President Biden leave the 2024 race as well here? So
I wonder what the numbers are going to say.
Looks like the room is
still getting mic checks here. We do have a couple of vantage points that have been filtering through, one from the side here, and then we have, of course, the shot straight on in the podium here. Kind of late starting in this. We were told it was going to be 6:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
multiple reports that has been pushed back now to 7 p.m. So any moment now, really, we should be expecting Biden to step up to this podium, make his remarks for this press conference that really everybody has their eyes on right now. Everybody seems to be watching Biden very closely after that debate, as some people are calling disastrous, and has really prompted so many Congress members to ask Biden to drop his candidacy ahead of November elections. And as Andrew did mention, we do have this question down here on your screen. We'd like all our viewers to participate. We want to know your thoughts. Should President Biden...
So what we see here is that the White House hasn't even started their feed yet. So this is still over there at the White House. 50,000 watching right now. Chat's disabled because they're spineless little weaklings. And as you'll see, nothing's happening. So we'll keep our eye on it. But thank you for that. Stop sniffing kids, Joe. Yeah, it is. The salt is getting deep. It is so piled up amongst the Democrats. It's like Mount Everest over there. That's how much salt is there. It's wild. Hey, what's up? MJ Powell says Biden has won the right to run and be defeated by President Trump. Yes, there was a whole primary season. Millions of Democrats voted for him because he represents them. And to take that away and slot someone else in that George Clooney and the Disney princess wants, give me a break. That's an insurrection and antithetical to American democracy, as they keep lecturing us about. Oil Smoke Jones says, AKA 1R5 should be called Big Guy Press Conference, as in 10% for the big guy. Much more descriptive. From Oil Smoke Jones. Yeah, like the big boy, big guy press conference. So you can kind of smash them in together. Big guy, because he was the big guy who got the money, 10%. And he's also a big boy now. So, yeah, curious. All right, so they're still gearing up. We're waiting for that under. We want that under to come in here. If you're on team under right now, you're like, where are you at, Joe? You're getting a little nervous. Like, where is he at? The clock is ticking on this thing. So keeping him out. We got this one. And Steve T. We got some activity, some movement. Don't see Joe anywhere. All right, the unders, you're still okay. We're still okay. We still got some time left. I mean, it's less than 10 minutes left, but we still got some time. Hey, Steve T says, have you heard about Michigan lawyer Stephanie Lambert on X as attorney ATT Steph Lambert that was looking into election fraud but has been arrested for conspiracy to tamper with voting machines? You know, it does ring a bell. It's not a hard, loud bell, but it does ring a bell. And it's hard to keep track because I know that there were people who were indicted. Was she a part of the Michigan indictments? Or was this a separate issue? But thank you for flagging it for us either way, Steve T. And shout out to Stephanie for being a victim of our weaponized government. We had this one from Bonnie Speck. What's up, Bonnie? Over on Locals. Says, where are the people at, by the way? The president's going to come out and speak like any minute. Where are the people? This is weird. People are running in now.
The press corps is quickly filing in
here. Yeah, they're all coming
kind
in.
Of piecemeal. And that is the other question. Remember, Carell, there is a journalistic element to this story. Obviously, all those reporters want a question into President Biden. My question will be, though, has the White House pre-selected,
of course,
the reporters who President Biden will call on?
Of course. And what are all those name tags for?
For that, we know that has happened before. Not entirely sure if it will happen today there. So you can see kind of the mad rush of the White House press pool coming into the Mellon Auditorium there as well. And no doubt they're getting their questions ready here. We also have a head-on shot. So it looks to be like this is going to be starting momentarily.
It's getting close, over under.
All of the White House press pool just kind of made a mad dash for the room. They're taking their seats.
It's getting close,
remember,
baby.
Carell, what is so interesting about this, President Biden has not faced the White House press pool, the full White House press pool, since the debate. Remember, he has done kind of solo interviews with journalists.
Yeah, and he hasn't had to really think on his own since the debate. George Stephanopoulos has asked a couple questions on it, but this will be different. We'll see. The media might come out and play patty cake with him or not. Here, this one came in from Trump over on locals, he says, and really this is really just a surname for Jake Sullivan, who runs the country. He's a part of our locals community. He says, Rob, you guys need to stop this, okay? Sorry, Jake. Says, this man is running a country, okay? Can he please be 5 minutes late? Trumpers, geez. Says Rob, though, put us down for 500 over, okay? I reset Biden's nap timer for 20 extra minutes just for us. We're going to win. All right, so the overs are looking good. Overs are looking good. Jake Sullivan. Yeah, Jake Sullivan. What did I say? John Sullivan? Jake Sullivan. In the house. He's a member of our locals community. So, all right, the overs, you're looking pretty good right now. Now, we'll see if Joe walks out any minute now. We've got 6 minutes left for the unders to win it. Otherwise, it's not looking good. And this is when times get tense, man. We've just got a few short minutes. 5 minutes left. But the unders could still take it. We know that the press is filed in. We're waiting for the live shots. And what did I say? Oh, I'm getting my names wrong today. Oh, we got some funny comments coming in. So this one from Bonnie says, the Democratic Party and family are just working through the stages of grief, shock, denial, anger, and finally, acceptance. We've been watching it. We've been watching it in super slow motion in real time. And all of the different journos, like the Hollywood people, all going through the same thing, like Rob Reiner goes through all, they're all crying on the floor. We saw the stories. Oh, here was the clip from earlier.
Here it says kind of a transcript of what went down. President Biden, ladies and gentlemen, President Putin, he's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky saying, I'm better. President Biden there saying, you're a hell of a lot better. So clearly the Biden campaign is kind of tackling all of these things full force. They're saying Biden is going to slip up. That does not really give us the entire scope of what he can do during his presidency. We have a couple of tweets here also from Fox News correspondents Jackie Heinrich saying posting this was a mistake. And then we also had one from Bill Malusian. So
yeah, they're trying to get ahead
for
of
them
it.
to post
See,
this.
he corrected himself. It was just a
that
flub.
They're going to get mixed reaction for posting that. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, you can talk about.
I see what they're trying to do. So it's kind of a rule in politics. If something bad happens, it's better for you to get it out first. So you should make something of it. It's a standard thing in politics. You read the political science books, they'll tell you that. Get it out first. Like if you have a bad story, get it out. Otherwise, if it comes out later, it's a scandal. And so you want Joe to own it. And they'll say, well, he corrected himself. And quite honestly, the transcript reads better than the audio, right? The transcript says, because there's no pauses in the transcript. Putin, President Putin, he's going to beat President Putin. I'm better, right? So it doesn't feel as awkward because there's not that long, awkward pause. So they want to get out ahead of it. I actually don't think it's a terrible idea because they know everyone's going to spread it around anyway. So just get ahead of it. And I'm sure we'll see a lot more of it. But they're going to have a whole cover-up strategy. Every time he has a flub, they're going to have a strategy, and getting ahead of it makes the most sense of anything. Now, Matt Ostrander over on YouTube says, Manchin is not a nice fella. Says, I'm from West Virginia, and he needs to go. Well, I think he is. I think he's out on his way out, right? Good to see you, Matt. Thanks for the dono, my friend. And shout out to our friends in West Virginia. This one came in from Chubby. We got 3 minutes left for the under. If you took the under, things are getting close. Things are getting pretty close. Clock is ticking away. Hopefully he didn't put too much on it. It could happen. It could happen, but we don't know. Over's looking pretty good, especially since Jake Sullivan is now on our side. And we also have 2 minutes left. It's not looking good for the unders. It's not looking good. Who set this over-under line? I don't know. Hey, what's up, Chubby says, there's at least two Dem factions now, Biden and the Obamas. MSM is clearly Team Obama, hence why they keep drilling down on Obama dropping out. Will be interesting to see how all these pieces move in the coming days. Yeah, we've definitely seen that too. And it seems like the Obama acolytes all went out and took him out. We played that clip yesterday here of David Axelrod and the Pod Save Bros. And they were all coming down on Joe. And Jake Tapper has been doing the same thing. It's like, interesting. There was an approval that went out. Knox is here, says, happy Thursday, all. I am giddy with anticipation over the Biden unravel. When I see him, the quintessential political hack, losing it in the public eye, I'm rather happy. Couldn't happen to a better guy. Yeah, and that is so true, Knox. I get so tired of hearing this fake facade like Joe Biden's this everyday man. He's been screaming at people from his high horse as long as I've watched him. Listen, fat, and all the things. Like, he's just been a standard, typical, narcissistic politician who's been in office forever, never taken responsibility for anything, been a leech on society for decades now. So, yeah, it's like, all right, well, you guys picked him. He's your guy. He represents you. You loved him. You were supporting him. You went out, bought a bunch of stickers and donated a bunch of money. So that's your guy. All right, the unders are looking rough. The unders are looking rough. We got 1 minute left, and then we're probably in over territory. All right, what's up? We got Sheila P. says, when you ask a Dem why Biden is better, their answer always includes the words democracy. They always scream abortion and Trump. In other words, nothing of interest to the people of our country except fear-mongering. Yeah, democracy is meaningless. Abortion, they don't understand. And is that Karine? Okay, we're at 15 minutes.
World leaders, we have the
we got
Secretary of
Kirby's
Defense,
coming in.
Lloyd Austin. They're all
We're
about
at
to take
15
their seats.
minutes.
So it could be really any moment now that we're going to hear from
So
Biden.
the unders
Andrew, what are you most
are
looking
now
forward
out.
to when it comes to the questions that some of the reporters are going to be asking?
I want to know
Sorry,
whether
unders.
the White House is prepared for
The overs have it.
onslaught of questions about Biden's age and about his
Now you
fitness
get bonus
for
points for
office.
how
If
close
they
you are. So how many minutes away? 17 minutes late, 20 minutes late, 25 minutes.
This is at the NATO summit. It's the third day of the NATO summit. It's not about that. And we've been kind of hammering that point. It's about all the other questions 2 weeks on since the poor debate performance. So that's what I'll be looking for, and to see whether or not Biden can steer the conversation about his record, about his accomplishments, and so many other things here. So you see the White House press pool gathered. So Secretary of Defense Austin in the front row, Admiral John Kirby, National Security
Getting ready
Council
any minute. We're at
spokesperson in the
16
front
minutes
row, Karine
past.
Jean-Pierre, White House press secretary in the front row, and then many others in the White House press pool. And so we'll be pointing out people that we see right now. This could be any moment, actually. It looks like people are taking their seats. It's about 7:15 there in Washington.
It's almost his
we were told
bedtime.
This was going to take place around 6:30. They're about 45 minutes
Yeah.
late. Of course, we just saw Biden about an hour and a half ago with Zelensky when he made that comment, when he made that gaffe. And we haven't seen him since. And so
More
no doubt
injections.
He's going to open with some kind of introductory remarks, probably about how the NATO summit has gone, some of the key policy objectives and accomplishments that have been achieved at the NATO summit. And then I would imagine that they're going to get into questions. That other question I have, though, is whether or not the White House pre-selected reporters on who President Biden
Almost
calls
positive
on
that they did.
in the room. Now, if that is the case, and he's done taking questions from the pre-selected reporters, and he is done with the press conference, essentially, you know, Carell, you've seen it a lot. So many of these reporters shout questions at Biden as he kind of wraps up some of these press conferences that he has.
All right, they better get cooking over here. It's almost bedtime, man. Now, there's a woman with a microphone. She's about to hold it up. I think they're going to be announcing people. Yeah, and Sheila says, that's all they do. Abortion, they don't understand. Trump is just an enemy. They don't even understand Trump. So they just go back to their regular talking points. And then they have to manufacture stuff like Project 2025 or whatever they have. It's just fake AstroTurf because they have no actual ideas that they can stand upon. Knox is here correcting your dumb document reader here. Knox Bierman tells us Orban is the president of Hungary, not Poland. Hello, dum-dum. We don't do a lot of foreign policy here, as you can tell. Hey, Easter Shugart, what's up? Says, Dems always put their party first. Joe be damned. Absolutely true. It's all loyalty to party over everything. They really don't care about country or really, I think, even their own well-being. It's all about the party. Chubby says, U.S. intelligence officers, okay, aren't these the same people who pushed Steele, also claimed the laptop was Russian disinformation? Oh, yeah, I'm totally trusting them again. Yeah, and why would Fox News post that too? Like, why are they spreading that around too? Is part of the apparatus. I don't know why that makes any sense. Knox is here, says, I am waiting for the goofballs of The View to all start pooping their pants in solidarity. Yeah, like that scene out of Billy Madison, that movie. We all pee our pants. Yeah, it's okay if the president pees his pants. I pee my pants too all the time. Not a big deal. Yeah, right now, peeing right now. It's not a big deal. All the podcasters can do it. Robert De Niro can walk down the streets just urinating all over himself. Not a big deal. It's new time in America. All right, thanks for that, Knox. Good idea. Hey, Sheila P., 10 new membos coming in. And I don't think these membos are showing up. Oh, there's Jake Sullivan. That's the guy who just put back Biden's clock. That's why he's late. See, I told you, he was part of our locals. He pushed the clock back. He set Biden's alarm back 15 minutes. And so now we're 19 minutes past the hour. And so the overs have won this. Thanks, Jake Sullivan, for that. Yeah, and Sheila, thanks for bringing in the membos. It's not as satisfying to be not able to welcome in all of the membos every time. I don't know why they did that. That seems kind of stupid. Jake, wake up. Okay, wake up. And cover your mouth when you yawn, all right? Impolite. Salty Sarge is here. Says, Joe has one official crackhead son and another cokehead son, adopted son from Ukraine, Zelensky. Yeah, and Zelensky gets a lot bigger allowance than Hunter. He gets like 80 billion every time he comes. Hunter only gets a couple $100 million from the Chinese. What's up, Salty? Thanks for that. Yeah, zoom in there on, yeah, that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see Blinken's fat face. Great. Hey, Tasadika is here. Tasadika is now sharing this comment. Said, I pulled this from the Michigan State Department website saying the Supreme Court telling Benzo it's unconstitutional. They're going to go forward with the language. Now Whitmer signed a bill that keeps any recount for happening if there is fraud. I'm seeing a plot coming together to rig the 2024 election from Tasadika. Yeah, there were some interesting things happening in Michigan. They're cheaters. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. And it's a New York Post. Controversial election bill now becomes law in Michigan. Sandy says this might be the war game theory that they're going to try. They say that there might be a scenario where the outcome of the election is unclear from election night. The results from 3 states are in contention. Ballots are destroyed, making it unclear who won. Neither campaign is willing to concede. All of a sudden, we then have Joe Biden who says, I won and I'm not leaving. Hey, Den the Man is here. He's got his over in by 30. So over in by 30. And so far, he's looking pretty good. 9 minutes until we're there. Den the Man. We'll see how close you get. Glenn Croy says, odd saying Trump. It's odd everyone's saying Trump won't leave, but Biden is the one refusing to leave. Love it. LMAO. Yeah, they're all like really begging him to leave. Can you please just get the hell out of the race, please? No, I'm not going anywhere. They're like, ah, please. Newt Gadget. What's up, Newt Gadget? 5 new membos coming in. I don't know who you are, but I'm really grateful to have you. And so new membos, we're excited to have you. And thanks for joining us. And check out that members only morning stream that came in this morning. Eddie Block Film says, I would never watch Rob while driving, which is obviously not what's happening in this photo, as I can tell. This is an AI drafted photo, obviously. Eddie Block's, you know, a law follower. And maybe it's legal there. I don't know. It's not yeah, okay, so Eddie Block in the house. There's the photo. Looking good, driving safely everywhere. We got 200-watt studio. Says Decimus, of course, the root of decimated. Yeah, it was Maximus Decimus Meridius. I wanted to say Aurelius, but that's Marcus Aurelius, not Maximus. Yeah, Dolphin Fan is the man in the house, bringing in 5 new membos. So excited to have some new membos in. And thank you, Dolphin Fan, for bringing all of them in. Dolphin Fan is the man. Hey, Ruger 9x9 says, don't say Putin, don't say Putin, don't say Putin, don't say Putin. And now I want to welcome Vladimir Putin. Ah! Ah! Everybody on Joe's team just went, ah! And then other people were exchanging money. You know, other people's like, shoot, here's your 20. All right. You're right. He said Putin. I can't believe it. Here you go. Hey, Cassandra D. What's up, Cassandra D? Thanks for becoming a membo in the house. Really glad to have you here. We got Cassandra D joining us. Jack Mack. Good to see you, Jack. Thanks for bringing in 5 new membos. They know who they are. And I wonder if the email tells you that it came courtesy of Jack Mack. Do you at least get that? Does it at least say? Because that was also nice. Like when you gifted the membo, it said you got brought in by Jack Mack. Like that was a nice little welcome thing. Gosh, I don't know. All right, Jack Mack, thank you. Cassandra, thanks for joining. Salty Sarge says, yeah, look at this. Look at this line of just total incompetent destruction. This whole row. of people who've wrecked America. Just one after the other. Total disaster. Jake Sullivan looks nervous there. Yeah, I can understand that. Salty Sarge says, I predict that Biden's press conference tonight will go as well as the guy who was rescuing the shark the other day. In other words, not good. He might be eaten by a shark known as the media. Mark B. What's up, Mark B? Thanks for being a member, my friend, for 7 months. That's almost a full baby. He says, great job, Rob, for keeping us informed. Thanks for that, Mark. We try to have some fun here, learn some things, get some knowledge, parse through what is actually going on. And we're grateful that you've been able to join us and support us for 7 months, Mark. Thanks for that. We got this one from Spot of Blue. Says, I like the no-show Joe. No-show Joe. Well, he's 24 minutes late, so if you had 30 after, that was a good one. And this was already postponed, 30 minutes. So Weirdo is on YouTube, says, should we make today a new national holiday? We can call it Trump Freedom Day. Then we can have another one in September when they don't sentence him again. What would the honor for Trump Freedom Day? Would that be because Joe Biden's giving a big boy conference or something? But I'm down, sure. Yeah, Trump Freedom Day sounds good. There's probably a better day for it though, like maybe the sentencing day or maybe like the immunity decision day or something like that would be better. Hey, Stephen Evans, what's up? Says we treat a Biden presser like a moonshot. Yeah, this is going to be like a Coliseum type of situation. I think. I don't know. I mean, you would imagine the media would come at him pretty hard because he lied to them. And the administration lied to them for the last 3.5 years, and now they all found out, and they're now all realizing they're liars. So you would imagine they'd have some words, but, who knows? Probably not. Trump. We had that one from Jake Sullivan. B-Man was noticing. He says, yeah, notice no reporters. I know, they were all gone. It's like, where are they coming? Where were they? They know he's going to come out any minute, so they all race back in. All right, so she's standing up, waiting for Joe to come out. See if they're saying.
For September, of course, we just have to kind of set the stage here. We're a long ways away from November 5th.
Yeah, so here is another one. My pronouns, I told you so. Good to see you. My pronouns are I told you so. Says YouTube notified me that I got 2 membos. I had to dig into my YouTube account to find that it was Rick D. Can't remember how I did it, though, to see who gave it to me. So that guy just walked out, put something on the podium. And that's not Joe Biden. Brandon Lee says, hey, Membo for 4 months says, doesn't the official calendar say 6:30 conference? It does. It did. I think it was originally 5:30, but then they moved it to 6:30, and now it's going to be about 7:30. So originally it was 5:30 Eastern, then 6:30 because they said NATO got started late, and now it's 7:30. Philip B., what's up, says, Dems have a plutocratic coup to save democracy. Yeah, so only a small sliver of the ultra elite like Tapper and Clooney and the Disney princess can actually decide. The millions of Democrat voters who voted fair and square for Joe have to get thrown out. Hey, Biden's kickstand is here. Very useful item. Says bets that Brandon doesn't show. He's got to show. If he doesn't show, there'll be a big problem for him. So Biden's kickstand, very useful object. Hey, the Rubos are here. You know them at rubossaltshop.com. They've got the best salt in the world that comes from the oceans of France. This one came in from the Rubos. Says all Biden's men couldn't put Biden back together again because he's like Humpty Dumpty. He's had a great fall. Soulish Butterfly Skincare and Soul said, hey, a nice super chat. Thanks for that. Looks like Joe's coming in.
American history, from what I can remember. I wasn't there at the time. Okay, we have Biden. We have
all right,
Biden.
we got him.
We do have Biden. Let's take a listen to this. It's happening live.
We just concluded this year's NATO summit, and the consensus among the members was it was a great success. It's especially momentous because it represented the 75th year, the most important military defense alliance in the world's history of the world. We should never forget that NATO grew out of the wreckage of World War II, the most destructive war in history. The idea was to create an alliance of free and democratic nations that would commit themselves to a compact of collective defense. Standing together, they knew we'd all be safer. An attack on one would be treated as an attack on all. And it's worked. because a would-be aggressor knows if they attack one of us, they'll be attacked by all of us. Sending that message is the best way to deter aggression and prevent wars in the first place. For those who thought NATO's time had passed, they got a rude awakening when Putin invaded Ukraine. Some of the oldest and deepest fears in Europe roared back to life because once again, a murderous madman was on the march. But this time, no one cowered in appeasement, especially the United States. We collected intelligence that Russia was planning to invade Ukraine months before the invasion. I directed the intelligence community to be a significant amount of intelligence be declassified so I could start building an international coalition to oppose the invasion. Then in February, some of you remember, I warned the world that the invasion was imminent. I rallied a coalition of 50 nations from Europe to Asia to help Ukraine defend itself. Many foreign policy experts thought, as Putin amassed Russian forces just 100 miles north of Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, but Putin thought it was the mother home of Russia. The capital would fall in less than a week. But the Ukrainian people, backed by a coalition to help build, stopped them. Today, Kyiv still stands, and NATO stands stronger than it has ever been. During the week of this summit, several heads of states made it a point in their statements to thank the United States and to thank me personally for all that NATO has achieved. NATO is not only stronger, NATO is bigger because we led the charge to bring in Finland and Sweden into the alliance, and it makes a gigantic difference. Excuse me. Meanwhile, my predecessor has made it clear.
Going to Trump now.
He has no commitment to NATO. He's made it clear that he would feel no obligation to honor Article 5. He's already told Putin, and I quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." In fact, the day after Putin invaded Ukraine, here's what he said. It was genius. It was wonderful. Some of you forgot that, but that's exactly what he said.
Okay, Joe.
But I made it clear. A strong NATO is essential to American security. And I believe the obligation of Article 5 is sacred. And I would remind all Americans, Article 5 is invoked only once in NATO's long history, and that was to defend America after 9/11. I made it clear that I will not bow down to Putin. I will not walk away from Ukraine. I will keep NATO strong. That's exactly what we did, and exactly what we'll continue to do. Now, the future of American policy is up to the American people. This is much more than the political question. It's more than that. It's a national security issue. Don't reduce this to the usual testament that people talk about, issues of being a political campaign. It's far too important. It's about the world we live in for decades to come. Every American must ask herself or himself, is the world safer with NATO? Are you safer?
Is that two genders?
Is your family safer? I believe the American people know the answer to all those questions is yes. And I believe the American people understand that America is stronger because of our alliances. I believe the American consensus from Truman to Reagan to me still holds today. America cannot retreat from the world. We must lead the world. We're an indispensable nation, as Madeleine Albright wrote. Now let me turn to three other key issues. Just this morning, we had a great economic report showing inflation is down. Overall prices fell last month. Core inflation is the lowest it's been in 3 years.
Yeah, right. They're deleting
prices are
things
falling
from
for
the
cars,
analysis.
appliances, and airfares. Grocery prices have fallen since the start of the year.
You feel like your prices
We're
are
going
down?
to keep working to take down corporate greed to bring those prices down further.
It's corporations.
Meanwhile, Trump's calling for a 10% tariff on everything Americans buy.
You're adding $1 trillion
including foods
every
from
100
overseas,
days, Joe.
vegetables, and other necessities. And economists tell us that would cost the average American working family another $2,500 a year. It's a tax of $2,500 a year.
So's your inflation, buddy.
Second, our efforts to secure the border, southern border, is working.
Yeah.
After Trump killed the bipartisan effort to secure the border,
wow,
Republicans and Democrats had worked on, because he thought it would benefit me and make him a loser, Republicans walked away. So I took executive action last month.
Which you could have done earlier.
As a consequence, working with Mexico, border encounters have gone down over 50%. The current level
You're not counting
is lower
them.
today than when Trump left office.
If they return, or
Third,
you can't tell if they return, you don't
for
count
months, the United States has been working to secure a ceasefire in Gaza, to bring the hostages home.
How's that pier going?
To create a path for peace and stability in the Middle East. 6 weeks ago, I laid out a detailed plan in writing. It was endorsed by the UN Security Council, the G7. That framework is now agreed on by both Israel and Hamas. So I sent my team to the region to hammer out the details. These are difficult, complex issues. There are still gaps to close. We're making progress. The trend is positive, and I'm determined to get this deal done and bring an end to this war, which should end now. Let me conclude where I began. We're the United States of America. We are the indispensable nation. Our leadership matters. Our partnerships matter. This moment matters. We must rise to meet it. With that, I'll take your questions.
Pretty good from Joe. I'm happy with
a list
that.
of people to call on here.
Yes, of course.
Reuters, Jeff Mason.
Here we go.
Mr. President, your political future has hung over the NATO summit a little bit this week. Speaker Pelosi made a point of suggesting that your decision on whether to stay in the race was still open. George Clooney and a handful of lawmakers have called on you to step aside. Reuters is reporting tonight that UAW leadership is concerned about your ability to win.
UAW just endorsed me, but go ahead.
Thank you. My question for you is, how are you incorporating these developments into your decision to stay? And separately, what concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Number one.
Joe!
The fact is that the consideration is that I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again.
You beat your vice president?
Secondly.
What?
The idea, I served in the Senate a long time. The idea that senators and congressmen running for office worry about the ticket is not unusual. And I might add, there are at least 5 presidents running or incumbent presidents who had lower numbers than I have.
Oh, yeah. Whisper time, baby. Yeah.
Later in the campaign.
Yeah.
So there's a long way to go.
It's whisper time.
In this campaign. And so I'm just going to keep moving. Keep moving. And because, look, I got more work to do. We got more work to finish.
Yeah.
There's so much. We made
Here we
so
go.
much progress.
We're going off
Think
now.
about it.
La La Land.
Think about where we are economically relative to the rest of the world. Name me a world leader who wouldn't want to trade places with our economy. We've created over 800,000 manufacturing jobs, 1.5 million jobs. I mean, so things are moving. We got more to go. Working class people still need help. Corporate greed is still at large. Their prices, the corporate profits have doubled since the pandemic. They're coming down. And so I'm optimistic about where things are going.
All right. So we got President Putin of Ukraine
Danny
and
Kemp,
Vice President
AFP.
Trump. Vice President Trump also today. So 2 names off today, not so high.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about you mixed up Presidents Zelensky and Putin earlier today.
And Trump and Kamala.
And you now have sort of your key allies, including the British Prime Minister, the
Ask
President
about
of
that.
France, the German Chancellor having to step in and make excuses for you on that. Officials here are saying off the record that your decline has become noticeable. Hasn't this now, frankly, become damaging for America's standing in the world? Thank you.
Did you see any damage to our standing by leading this conference? Have you seen a more successful conference? What do you think? And the Putin piece, I was talking about Putin, and I said, and now, at the very end, I said, Putin. I said, no, I'm sorry, Zelensky.
Yeah, we watched it.
And then I added 5 other names. Look, guys,
that's what he asked about. Yeah.
The idea anybody suggests that we haven't had an incredibly successful conference. How many times did you hear in that conference? I know it sounds too self-serving, but other leaders, heads of state, in thanking me, saying the reason we're together is because of Biden, because Biden did the following. Look, folks, this is well, anyway.
Yeah.
I thought it was the most successful conference I've attended in a long time, and find me a world leader who didn't think it was. Next one. Nancy Cordes, CBS.
Another prearranged question, please, from CBS.
Thank you, Mr. President. You mentioned other instances in history where presidents have faced a challenge, but what makes this moment in history so unique is that it is not your enemies who are calling on you to reconsider your decision to stay in the race. It's your friends, supporters, people who think you've done a great job over the past 4 years. Have you spent time thinking about what it would mean for your legacy, which you've worked decades to build, if you stay in the race, despite the concerns that voters say they have, and you lose to someone who you yourself have argued is unfit to return to the Oval Office?
Well, look, I'm not in this for my legacy. I'm in this to complete the job I started. As you recall, understandably, many of you and many economists thought my initial initiatives that I put forward, can't do that, it's going to cause inflation, things are going to skyrocket.
It did cause inflation. They are skyrocketing.
What are you
hearing
hearing
going
now
up
from mainstream economists? 16 economic Nobel
16.
laureates
It's like the 51
said I've
intelligence.
done a hell of a job. And under my plans so far and what's going to happen
Fake economists
in the future
like the fake
if I'm
intelligence
reelected,
officers.
that things are going to get much better. Our economy is growing. I was determined when I got elected to stop the trickle-down economic theory, that if the wealthy did very well, everybody else would do well. My dad was a well-read, decent guy. I don't remember much trickling down on his kitchen table.
Did someone give him a job?
Middle-class people
Did someone hire him?
and working-class people need help.
From
And so what
employers,
happened is I
not the
decided
government.
was able to implement as president what I believed when I was a senator. And that is that the way to build this economy is from the middle out and the bottom up. That way,
There is no middle
we grow
class,
the economy.
Joe. Nobody can
And
afford
the wealthy
anything.
still do very well. They do fine. And guess what? Find me an economist, a mainstream economist who said we haven't done well. What have we not done that isn't working right now? And so
inflation.
we got more to do, though. We got to
That's
finish
one.
the job. And by the way, I come from the corporate state of the world. Delaware has more corporations registered in Delaware than every other state in
Not
the
Elon's.
nation combined.
Elon
I'm
moved
not
out.
anti-corporate, but corporate profits have doubled since the pandemic. Doubled. It's time things get back in order a little bit. It's time, for example, if I'm reelected, we're going to make sure that rents are kept at 5% increase. Corporate rents for apartments and the like and homes are limited to 5%. We're going to make a lot of changes that I've been talking about because we're going to continue to grow this economy. And by the way, remember how I got so roundly criticized for being so pro-union, not labor, union.
Scream it,
Well,
Joe.
guess what? I've been the most pro-union labor president in history. Not a joke. And guess what? We had the Treasury Department do a study. When unions do better, everybody does better. Everybody does better.
The whisper.
And we talk about how, for example, remember when we talked about getting the computer chip industry back in the United States? Used to be 40% of the industry. We invented the chip. 40% of the industry was in the United States. And former presidents decided that the best way to do it is find the cheapest labor in the world, send the product over there and import what the product was. And so what
He's
did I
burned
do?
the clock out. Like, this is
I was
pretty
told
good
not
in
to
terms
go
of
over to Europe.
tactic.
To Asia, including
Filibuster,
Europe, but Asia.
rambling about whatever.
And I remember going to South Korea, convincing them to invest $20 billion in the United States to build computer chip factories.
His campaign can
And
say
I asked why when they
nothing
finally
bad
decided
happened.
to
Everything's
do it.
good.
And the answer was because you have the safest economy in the world and you have the best workers in the world. So the whole idea here is we've invested, there's over $50 billion in investment in computer chip manufacturing just coming into being. None of you thought that would happen. None of you thought that would happen. But it's happening. It's happening. And it's going to grow economies all through. And by the way, red states and blue states. Matter of fact, there's as much in red states as in blue states. I've made no distinction. So my generic point is that the idea that we can't continue to build and grow the economy, make it fair. Like I said, from my standpoint, when the middle class does well, that's when the whole economy grows. The poor have a shot, the wealthy do well. But the wealthy got to start paying their taxes.
Amazing answer, Joe. Amazing.
Your Vice President Kamala Harris would be
They took the
ready to
mic
serve
away.
on day one. Can you elaborate on that? What is it about her attributes and her accomplishments over the last 4 years that make her ready to serve on day one if necessary?
First of all, the way she's handled the issue of freedom of women's bodies to have control over their bodies. Secondly, her ability to handle almost any issue on the board.
Not the border.
This was a hell of a prosecutor.
Not AI.
She was a first-rate person, and in the Senate, she was really
Slept
good.
with Willie Brown.
I wouldn't have picked her unless I
prosecuted
thought she
marijuana
was
offenses.
qualified to be president. From the very beginning, I made no bones about that. She is qualified to be president. That's why I picked her.
Next fake question.
Felicia Schwartz, Financial Times.
FT.
Thank you, Mr. President. Presidency is the most straining job in the world, and it's 24/7. How can you say you'll be up for that next year, in 2 years, in 4 years, given the limits you've acknowledged that you have today?
The limits I've acknowledged I have?
There's been reporting that you've acknowledged that you need to go to bed earlier and your evening around 8.
That's not true. Look, what I said was,
you didn't like that
instead
question.
of my every day starting at 7 and going to bed at midnight, it'd be smarter for me to pace myself a little more. And I said, for example, the 8, 7, 6 stuff, instead of starting a fundraiser at 9 o'clock, start at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, just,
people get to go home by 10
earlier.
o'clock. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about. And if you looked at my schedule since I made that stupid mistake in the campaign in the debate, I mean, my schedule has been full bore. I've done. Where's Trump been? Riding around in his golf cart, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball.
He's been watching your party disintegrate.
He's done virtually nothing.
As have we all.
And I have, I don't know how many, don't hold me to it, roughly 20 major events. Someone with thousands of people showing up.
I agree with Joe. Joe is
And so,
absolutely capable of running.
I just
this.
think it's
absolutely
better.
Yeah, media.
I always have an inclination.
What time do you go to
whether I
bed?
was playing
Mark?
sports or doing politics, just to keep going, not stop. I just got to just pace myself a little more.
Yeah.
Pace myself.
Yeah, that's all.
And the next debate, I'm not going to be traveling into 15 time zones a week before.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Anyway,
Yeah, 2 weeks.
That's what it was about.
Yeah.
That's what it was about. And by the way, even with that, I love my staff, but they add things.
They
add things all the time.
They add
Very
things, and
good.
that's why he was tired. Yeah.
I'm catching hell from my wife for that. Anyway.
Dr. Jill. Yeah. Next question, Joe.
I'm sorry. Zeke Miller, Associated Press.
AP's in the house.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two questions for you. First, on the NATO summit, President Zelensky, in your meeting with him, he pressed you to lift your limitations on the Ukrainian use of American weapons, saying that, in his public remarks afterwards, saying that Ukraine cannot win the war unless those limitations are lifted. Are you reconsidering your position on that? And then secondly, following up on Felicia's question there, leaders of your own party have said that they're not worried about that debate. They're worried about the next bad night and the bad night after that.
He's doing
How can
great
we reassure
tonight.
the American people that you are up to the task and that there won't be more bad nights at a debate stage or somewhere else?
First thing about Zelensky asking for the ability to strike deep into Russia.
Yeah.
We've allowed Zelensky to use American weapons in the near term, in the near or abroad, into Russia.
Into Russia.
Whether or not he should be attacked. For example, should Zelensky, he's not. If he had the capacity to strike Moscow, strike the Kremlin, would that make sense?
I don't know.
It wouldn't. The question is, what's the best use of the weaponry he has, the weaponry we're getting to him? I've gotten a more long-range capacity, as well as defensive capacity, and so our military is where I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people. And we're making a day-to-day basis on what they should and shouldn't go, how far they should go in.
So long-range weaponry to not strike
Second question
deep into
related
Russia.
to
Bad nights, sir. How can you reassure the American people that you won't have more bad nights, whether they be on a debate stage or on some matter of foreign policy?
Well, I tell you what.
Watch me.
The best way to assure them is the way I assure myself. And that is, am I getting the job done? Am I getting the job done? Can you name me somebody who's got more major piece of legislation passed in 3.5 years? I created 2,000 jobs just last week.
2,000 jobs.
So if I slow down, I can't get the job done. That's a sign that I shouldn't be doing it. But there's no indication of that yet. None. What I got here?
Next question. They're not coming after him too hard, and he's
Merrick, Pulaski Radio.
Staying afloat.
Thank you,
which is
Mr.
great.
President. How are you?
I'm well.
The elections in the US have consequences around the world.
Yeah.
You have pretty high standing in Europe. I just asked President Macron about you, and he said we are happy to have him as the President of the United States.
Of course he is, because he's
But
a communist too.
there is a concern. Many people in Poland and across Europe are worried that the former president may win the election.
Trump might win. Europe's freaked out.
And there's a lot of concern that Donald Trump may weaken NATO, stop supporting Ukraine, or push Ukraine to give up territories to Russia.
They're correct.
And
to settle the
yourself was warning just 2 minutes ago about it. So my question is, do you think that Europe will be left on its own if Donald Trump wins the election? And what's your advice to European leaders to prepare for possible US disengagement?
Well, look, I think.
Just say you're going to win.
How can I say this without?
I need to win, so Trump
sounding
can't
too
win.
self-serving.
Yeah, you just say it.
I'm not having any of my European allies come up to me and say, Joe, don't run. What I hear them say is, you've got to win.
Yeah, obviously that's the answer.
You can't let this guy come forward. It'd be a disaster.
It was such a softball, stupid question.
Disaster.
Okay, you just set it up.
I mean, I think he said in one of his rallies, don't hold me to this, recently, where NATO, I just learned about NATO or something to that effect. Foreign policy has never been his strong point.
Dumb question.
And he seems to have an affinity to people who are authoritarian. That worries, as I tell you from Poland, that worries Europe. That worries Poland. And nobody, including the people of Poland, think that if he wins in Ukraine, he's going to stop in Ukraine. That that's going to be the end of it. And so
No, he's going to march.
what I can
back
say
to the
is,
sea. Got it.
I think I'm the best qualified person to do the job, to make sure that Ukraine is
The
not
right
fall,
answer, because
that
they
Ukraine
probably rehearsed
succeeds,
that one.
that the European alliance stays strong.
It felt rehearsed.
You
that
may
whole
recall, no one was talking about Finland joining NATO. I remember talking to Putin right after we got elected in Geneva, and he was talking about what we should do. We couldn't be in Eastern Europe, etc. And I said, you're looking for the Finlandization of Ukraine. I said, you're going to get the NATOization of Finland. And about 4 weeks later, I got a call. That's not true. Probably 5 months later, from the president of Finland, could he come and see me? In my office. I invited him to the Oval Office. We sat down and talked. He said he wanted to join NATO. Could I help? And I did. It wasn't automatic. And then I got a call from the Swedes.
They're cutting the mic off for the reporters.
I beg your pardon?
Turn the mic back on. So the Biden campaign is cutting the mic off from the reporters so that they didn't even turn it back on.
Finland joined NATO. 800-mile border is significant. And they're already allies, but they weren't part of NATO. And you heard, I think you heard, maybe, I can't recall whether he said a public in our closed meeting, but he wouldn't mind it being repeated. He said, we decided in Finland, the people of Finland decided they had to be part of NATO. It was in our interest because of the joint ability to be together, to dissuade any attack on Finland. And the same thing with Sweden. It took a lot of selling to some folks, particularly in Turkey and other places, to agree to the expansion. But it expanded.
Totally ridiculous
and
question.
We're a hell of a lot stronger because of it. We're more secure because
by a rigged media.
And by the way,
just filibusters.
I was able to get 50 other nations, 50 to support Ukraine. 50. And we were able to bring about a coalition of Europe and Asia, Japan and South Korea. I just we talked about AUKUS, and we talked about the relationship between Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, the United States. We're making the world safer and stronger because we have to deal with the new arrangement that exists in the world. The Cold War is over. The post-war era is over. What is going to replace it? And I respectfully suggest,
I don't know.
I have a pretty good idea what that should be.
What?
I've convinced a lot of people to follow it. And we're just going to get stronger. David Sanger. Where is it?
Okay, we started at what, 4:29, I think?
Be nice, David.
Mr. President, the NATO declaration that was issued yesterday was very notable because it described China as a decisive enabler of the war in Ukraine for its provision of critical goods to the Russians. That's part of a broader partnership that seems to have cemented in place in the past 2 or 3 years. I think one that you were a little bit doubtful of when we asked you about it some time ago. So I'd be interested to know whether you have a strategy now of trying to interrupt the partnership between China and Russia. And whether or not in a second term you would pursue that, if you could describe that strategy to us.
Foreign policy filibuster question.
Along the way, could you also tell us whether you think, just to follow up on Felicia's question, that if you were in a room with Vladimir Putin again, the way you were 3 years ago, or with President Xi, that a few years from now you will be able to go negotiate with them, handle them one-on-one?
Well, the first part of the question is, we discussed and I raised in the NATO summit, and others raised, the future of China's involvement, what they're going to do. What they're doing with Russia in terms of accommodating, facilitating, they're getting access to additional, they're not supplying weapons themselves, they're supplying mechanisms for them to be able to get weapons.
You just had a little burp going on.
China's position is basically, and I've spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader has.
Yeah, in the foothills of the Himalayas.
Over 90 hours since being vice president all the way through, for real. And by the way, I handed all my notes.
The classified documents or what? Were those in there too?
She believes that China is a large enough market that they can entice any country, including European countries, to invest there in return for commitments from Europe to do A, B, C, or D, or not to do certain things. What's happened is we had a long discussion about what we cannot, we have to make clear China has to understand that if they are supplying Russia with information and capacity, along with working with North Korea and others to help Russia in armament, that they're not going to benefit economically as a consequence of that by getting the kind of investment they're looking for. And so, for example, we're in a situation where, and we've reestablished direct contact with China after that, remember the balloon, quote unquote, going down, and all of a sudden things came to an end? Well, we set up a new mechanism. There's a direct line between Xi and me, and our military has direct access to one another, and they contact one another when we have problems. The issue is that we have to make sure that Xi understands there's a price to pay
just burn in the clock
for undercutting both the Pacific Basin as well as Europe, and as it relates to Russia and dealing with Ukraine. And so we, for example, if you want to invest in China, as you know this area really well, want to invest in China, you have to have a 51% Chinese owner.
This is great.
You have to make sure that you do by their rules, and you don't have the authority, and you have to provide all access to all the data and information you have. There was a while there, as you recall, the last administration and other administrations, where the access to that market was enticing enough to get companies to come in because they had access to over 1 billion people in a market, not 1 billion, but a lot of people in the market. And so they were doing it. But that got curtailed when we started saying we're going to play by the same rules. For example, the idea they don't abide by the international rules related to subsidizing products by the government funding. So guess what? They're not going to be able to export their electric vehicles to the United States without a significant tariff. Others are doing the same thing around the world. But it is a concern. It is a concern that you have both China, North Korea, Russia, Iran, countries that are not necessarily coordinated in the past, looking to figure out how they can have impact.
Do you have a strategy to interrupt that impact?
Yes, I do, but I'm not prepared to talk about the detail of it in public. And I think you'll see that some of our European friends are going to be curtailing their investment in Russia. In China, as long as China continues to have this indirect help to Russia.
Good.
In terms of being able to
now.
help their economy, as well as help them in as a consequence of that their ability to fight in
They'd love it to happen.
in Ukraine. The other thing that we talked a lot about is that, and I raised it, and I didn't hear any. I can't swear that everyone agreed because not everyone got to talk about it. But
he's still going.
We need a new industrial policy in the West. For example, we talked about how both the EU as well as NATO has to be able to begin to build their own munition capacity, has to be able to generate their own capacity to provide for weapons and the ability to. It came as a surprise to some of us how we had fallen behind in the West in terms of the ability to construct new material, new weaponry, new everything from vehicles to weapon systems. And so one of the things that came out of this was we're going to be meeting again with a number of my colleagues, my European colleagues, is what do we do to increase the capacity of the West, particularly in Europe and Japan, to be able to generate kind of ability to produce their own weapon systems. Not just for themselves, but to be able to generate that. It's the same, it's what Russia's trying to figure out. That they went to China and they didn't get the weapons, but then they went to North Korea. But we're going to be in a position where the West is going to become the industrial base for it to be able to the ability to have all the defensive weapons that we need.
Okay, so just
that was a discussion.
Droning on. This is a tactic, right? It's by design. Just filibuster.
Whether you would be ready to go deal with Putin and Xi 2 or 3 years from now.
I'm ready to deal with them now and 3 years from now. Look, like I said, I'm dealing with Xi right now and direct contact with him. I have no good reason to talk to Putin right now. There's not much that
there's a war going
he is prepared to do in terms of accommodating any change in his behavior.
Well, that's because you want him tried and imprisoned in the criminal courts.
There isn't any world leader I'm not prepared to deal with.
That's your negotiation starting point. So
I understand the generic point is Putin ready to talk? I'm not ready to talk to Putin unless Putin's ready to change his behavior. And the idea, look, Putin's got a problem. First of all, in this war that he is supposedly have won, and by the way, I think, don't hold me to the exact number, but I think that Russia had 17.3% of Ukraine that they've conquered. Now it's 17.4. I mean, in terms of percentage of territory. They've not been very successful.
Ways, dude.
They've caused horrible damage, loss of life, but they've also lost over 350,000 troops, military, killed or wounded.
Yeah, and
they have over 1 million people, particularly young people with technical capability, leaving Russia because they see no future there.
Ukraine too.
They've got a problem. But what they do have control of is they are very good at controlling and running the public outcry that relates to how they use mechanisms to communicate with people. They lie like hell to their constituencies. They lie like hell about what's going on. And so the idea that we're going to be able to fundamentally change Russia in the near term is not likely. But one thing for certain, if we allow Russia to succeed in Ukraine, they're not stopping in Ukraine. I recommend, I know you know this because you've written about it, read Putin's speech after they moved in, what it was all about in Kyiv. It wasn't about just, anyway, read what his objective is. And anyway, but so I think that I'm prepared to talk to any leader who wants to talk, including if Putin called me and wanted to talk. Last time I talked to Putin was trying to get him to work on an arms control agreement related to nuclear weapons in space. That didn't go very far. So my point is, I'm prepared to talk to anybody, but I don't see any inclination. There is an inclination on the part of the Chinese to keep in contact with me because they're not sure where this all goes. And look what's happened in Asia. We have strengthened the Asian Pacific area more than anybody else has. We just put together today, I asked our NATO allies that we bring on a group from the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Australia. I already mentioned Australia. And I met twice now, I think, with the 14 leaders of the Pacific Island nations. And we've slowed down what's going on there. We've slowed down China's reach. But there's a lot of work to do. This is a moving target, and I don't take it lightly.
All right, how long is he going to go is the question. Are they trying to
NPR?
Burn out a clock? NPR. Oh, great. Let's see what this question says.
Thank you, Mr. President. Asma Khalid with NPR. I have two questions. Earlier, you spoke about the ceasefire plan between Israel and Hamas. We're now looking at 10 months of war, and I'm curious if there's anything that you feel personally you wish you would have done differently over the course of the war. And then secondly, if I may, I wanted to ask you about your presidential campaign. I remember covering your campaign in 2020, and there was a moment where you referred to yourself is a, quote, bridge candidacy, a transition to a younger generation of leaders. I want to understand what changed.
Two things. Let's go back to when you talked about would I have changed anything that's happening with Israel and the Palestinians and the Palestinian movement.
Here we
The
go.
answer is, as you recall, from the very beginning, I went to Israel, but I also got immediate contact with Al-Sisi in Egypt. I met with the King of Jordan. I met with most of the Arab leaders to try to get a consensus going as to what had to be done to deal with getting more aid and food and medicine into the Gaza Strip. And we pushed it really hard. And Israel occasionally was less than cooperative. Number one. The Israeli War Cabinet, I've been dealing with Israel since Golda Meir. Some of the reporters around here come here all the time have heard me say this. The first time I met with Golda Meir, I sat across from her at her desk, and her assistant was Rabin sitting next to me. That's how far back I go. I know Israel well, and I support Israel. But this war cabinet is one of the most conservative war cabinets in the history of Israel. And there's no ultimate answer other than a two-state solution here. And so what was able to be done in terms of the plan I put together was it would be a process for a two-state solution. And we get the Arab nations to, particularly from Egypt all the way to Saudi Arabia, to be in a position where they would cooperate in the transition so that they could keep the peace in Gaza without Israeli forces staying in Gaza. The question has been from the beginning, what's the day after in Gaza? And the day after in Gaza has to be, the end of the day after has to be no occupation by Israel
So
on the
would
Gaza
you have changed
Strip,
that or what?
as well as the ability for us to get in and out as rapidly as you can, all that's needed there. I've been disappointed that some of the things that I put forward have not succeeded as well, like the port we attached from Cyprus.
Yeah, they cost $300
I was
million.
hopeful that would be more successful.
Yeah.
But
didn't work.
that's why when I went to Israel immediately after the massacres that occurred at the hands of Hamas, the one thing I said to the Israelis, and I met with the War Cabinet and with Bibi, don't make the same mistake America made after bin Laden. There's no need to occupy anywhere. Go after the people who did the job. You may recall, I still get criticized for it, but I was totally opposed to the occupation and trying to unite Afghanistan. Once we got bin Laden, we should have moved on, because it was not no one's ever going to unite that country. I've been over every inch of that, not every inch, the entirety from the poppy fields all the way to the north. I said, don't make the same mistake we made. Don't think that's what you should be doing, is doubling down. We'll help you find the bad guys, Sinwar and company. And all this criticism about I wouldn't provide when the weapons they needed. I'm not providing them 2,000-pound bombs. They cannot be used in Gaza or any populated area without causing great human tragedy and damage. But remember what happened when you had the attack on Israel with rockets and ballistic missiles. I was able to unite the Arab nations as well as Europe, and nothing happened. Nothing got hurt. It sent an incredible lesson to what was going on from the Middle East. So there's a lot of things, in retrospect, I wish I had been able to convince the Israelis to do. But the bottom line is we have a chance now. It's time to end this war. It doesn't mean walk away from going after Sinwar and Hamas. And if you notice, you know better than most, there is a growing dissatisfaction on the West Bank from the Palestinians about Hamas. Hamas is not popular now. And so there's a lot of moving parts. I just have to keep moving to make sure that we get as much done as we can toward a ceasefire, and get those. And by the way, look at the numbers in Israel. I mean, my numbers are better in Israel than they are here.
Why don't you
but
go
then again, they're better
lead
than a
their
lot of other
country
people
then,
here too.
bucko?
But anyway,
sheesh.
Bridge candidacy in 2020. You referred to yourself as being a bridge candidate for a younger,
I'll bridge it
fresher
after this next
generation
term.
of Democratic
Next question.
leaders, and I wanted to know what changed.
what changed was the gravity of the situation I inherited.
No, that's not a good
in
answer.
terms of the economy, our foreign policy, and domestic division.
So you can't hand it to Kamala?
And
She's not capable,
think,
I guess?
I won't put words in anybody's mouth.
Speak your words.
Most presidential
That's why we're
historians give me credit for having accomplished more than most any president since Johnson and maybe before that to get major pieces of legislation passed. And what I realized was my long time in the Senate had equipped me to have the wisdom to know how to deal with the Congress to get things done. We got more major legislation passed that no one thought would happen. And I want to finish it, to get that finished. If tomorrow, if we had a circumstance where there was a lineup and I hadn't inherited what I did and we just moved things along, anyway, it's going to change.
Last question.
Haley Bull, Scripps. Or no, Josh Weingrove, I'm sorry.
Josh Weingrove.
Was the next one. I'll do 2 more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Many of your colleagues, Democrats on the Hill, are watching tonight as they assess what they want to say about your candidacy. I'm wondering how you're thinking of this right now. It seems like your answer is clear, but they're watching how things go tonight, tomorrow in Michigan, next week in Texas and Nevada. Are you thinking that way about how the next week or 2 goes would inform your...
Am I using that way, you say?
Are you thinking that way about how the next 2 weeks go? Will that affect your decision, or are you fully determined on running in November as the party's nominee?
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I allay fears by let them see me out there. Let me see them out. For the longest time it was, Biden's not prepared to sit with us unscripted. Biden's not prepared to, anyway. And so what I'm doing is, and I've been doing, I think we've done over 20 major events.
Stay in the race.
From Wisconsin to North Carolina to demonstrate that I'm going out in the areas where we think we can win, where we can persuade people to move our way, or people are already there. And here, look, the other thing is, we have the most extensive campaign organization anybody's had in a long, long time.
This is true.
We have well over 1,000 volunteers.
Be cautious, Republicans.
Knocking on doors, making phone calls, making tens of thousands of phone calls.
Yeah, that's why they can run a
We have headquarters. I forget exactly how many. I want to cite a number and then find out I'm off. But we have scores of headquarters in all the toss-up states.
That is
We're organized. We're moving. And that's awful hard to replace in the near term. And here's the other thing. I was in the Senate a long time. Very proud of what I've done in the Senate. I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee for a long time, and I was chairman or ranking member and chairman of the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, Hunter took a good advantage
I'm going to
of
be
that.
going down to the Johnson Library. Anyway, I'm going to be going around making the case of the things that I think we have to finish.
A lot of anyways.
And how we can't afford to lose what we've done or backslide on civil rights, civil liberties, women's rights. There's that little button we have. Control guns, not girls. I mean, the idea, we're sitting around, this is where Kamala's so good as well. We're sitting around, more children are killed by a bullet than any other cause of death. The United States of America. What the hell are we doing? What are we doing? We got a candidate saying, promise the NRA, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything. You got a Supreme Court that is what you might call the most conservative court in American history. This is ridiculous.
More girls are killed
There's
by bullets?
so much we can do still.
Is that what's happening?
And I'm determined to get it done. It's about freedom. And by the way,
it's not suicide.
I'll end this. Well, I'm not going to do that. Haley has to come up too.
Or something else?
I remember I made a speech on democracy.
They're like, cut it.
In Philadelphia.
This campaign's like, all right, time to cut it.
And I'm not being critical, just observing. The bulk of the press, what the hell is he talking about that for?
Yeah.
Democracy. You did. Democracy's not an issue. Democracy's not an issue.
Pull him off is the
Except
campaign.
the point that is,
all right,
60% of people knew I was right, thought I was right. I'm not asking you a question. You don't have to answer, obviously. But do you think our democracy is under siege based on this court? Do you think democracy is under siege based on Project 2025?
Based on you?
Do you think he means what he says when he says he's going to do away with the civil service, eliminate the Department of Education, make sure? I mean, we've never been here before. And that's the other reason why I didn't, you say, hand off to another generation. I've got to finish this job. I've got to finish this job because there's so much at stake.
We've had some discussions over the past few days with your press secretary about the question of health exams. And you said you take a cognitive test every day in this job. Are you open to taking another physical or test before the election? Governor Whitmer of Michigan, for instance, said it wouldn't hurt to take a test.
Well, look, two things. One, I've taken 3 significant and intense neurological exams by a neurologist.
There you go.
In each case, as recently as February. And they say I'm in good shape, okay? Although I do have a little problem with my left foot because it's not as sensitive because I broke my foot and didn't wear the boot. But I'm good. I'm tested every single day about my neurological capacity, the decisions I make every day. You talk to my staff, all of you talk to my staff. Sometimes my staff talks a lot. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think you have them telling you that all the major ideas we've undertaken haven't been in part initiated by me. I remember when the staff, I said, I'm going to go to South Korea. We're going to get the chip. What are you doing? I'm going to get Japan and Korea back together again after essentially having hostilities toward one another since the end of World War II. I'm going to move and see that we can expand. You know, the only thing age does is help you with it. Creates a little bit of wisdom if you pay attention.
There you go.
And so the point I'm making is, I think it's important that if the neurologist tells me he thinks I need another exam, and by the way, I've laid every bit of the record out. Hadn't hidden a thing. You ought to ask Trump for his, okay?
You have hidden everything.
I laid it all
Kareem's been
out.
lying to the media for the last 2 weeks.
And every single day, I'm surrounded by good docs. If they think there's a problem, I promise you, or even if they don't think it's a problem, they think I should have a neurological exam again, I'll do it. But no one's suggesting that to me now. I'll ask another question.
America.
No matter what I did, no one's going to be satisfied. Did you have 7 docs? Did you have 2? Who'd you have? Did you do this? How many times did you?
All right, someone's got to pull him.
So I am not opposed if my doctors tell me I should have another neurological exam, I'll do it.
But my doctors don't say that. Last question.
Haley Bull, Scripps.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said you're making decisions on a day-to-day basis when it comes to support for Ukraine. Does that mean you have not closed the door on further considering lifting restrictions for U.S.-made weapons inside Russia? And
What just happened?
If they have second thoughts, are they free to vote their conscience?
Obviously, they're free to do whatever they want, but I get overwhelming support. Overwhelming support. I won, I forget how many votes I won in the primary. Overwhelming.
He's right.
And so tomorrow, if all of a sudden I show up at the convention, everybody says, we want somebody else, that's the democratic process.
Absolutely agree.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, Joe.
Vote for someone else?
Yes.
Sure. Look. I'll end this with this. I served in the Senate a long time.
Close that binder, Joe.
I understand the impetus of candidates running for local office. and whether they think the topic can help them or not. In my state of Delaware, which was a very, at least it was a red state when I started, in terms of where you now talk red and blue. I don't recall most of the Democratic presidents winning my state when I was a candidate. The truth of the matter is, I understand the self-interest of a candidate. If they think that, running with Biden at the top is going to hurt them, then they're going to run away. I get it. But so far, go and look at the polling data in their states. Look at the in-depth, and by the way, I think you'd all acknowledge, and you're all experts. I'm not being solicitous about the president. You're experts on this stuff. How accurate does anybody think the polls are these days? I can give you a series of polls where you have likely voters, me versus Trump, where I win all the time. When the unlikely voters vote, he wins sometimes. The bottom line is all the polling data right now.
This is great.
Which I think is premature because the campaign really hasn't even started.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it hadn't started in earnest yet.
Yeah, sure.
Most of the time, it doesn't start till after September, after Labor Day. So, a lot can happen.
That's
but I think
a lot can happen.
I'm the best I believe I'm the best qualified to govern. And I think I'm the best qualified to win.
The
But
Democratic
there are other
nominee,
people
that's
who
for
could
sure.
beat Trump too. But it's awful start from scratch. And, we talk about, money raised. We're not doing bad. We got about $220 million in the bank. We're doing well. So with that, you want to follow up on any of that you just asked me?
Yes.
Should've
You
just walked off
earlier
there,
explained
Joe.
confidence in your vice president.
Yes.
If your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump, would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
Right, there are a lot.
Thank
This ends tonight's press
Call it, Joe. Get out of there,
Thanks,
Joe.
everybody.
Get out of there. Run away.
This concludes.
Respectfully, earlier you misspoke in your opening answer. You referred to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is using that to mock your age and your memory. How do you combat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference. Thank you, everybody.
Listen to him?
Thanks, everyone.
Listen to him. Okay, so listen to him. So that's Joe Biden and his big boy press conference, man, now completed. And boy, do we have some stuff to say about that. So I got to tell you, I think that was just about perfect for our side. Terrible, terrible, terrible for the Democrats. It couldn't have been worse for them because they needed something that was dispositive, something that would give them some clarity one way or the other. They needed a hard decision. They needed Biden to just fail badly so that they could coalesce around the remove Biden side, or they needed Biden to do just like outstanding. Come out, not mistake Kamala for Trump, not go out there, call Zelensky Putin, not say things that he is like listening to his commander-in-chief or whatever that line was about. So those are little flubs and little mistakes, but he's also going to be able to say, his campaign is going to come out there right now. They're saying, oh my gosh, I guarantee you they're drafting this up right now, where they're saying Joe Biden demonstrated excellence on policy. He knew everything about NATO. He walked us through NATO, and you heard him talk about China, and you heard him talk about the Indo-Pacific and all this stuff. He has a command of all these issues, way better than any of these other people do, like a governor or somebody else. Talked about the border, Gaza, all this stuff. And yeah, it was a filibuster. The whole thing was a filibuster, but he did what he needed to do. So, you know, if you go, you play a game, right? If you go out there, hey, all you have to do is just go put 5 points on the board. That's it. Don't get carried away. Just relax. Go out there, talk slowly. Just put 5 points on the board. You're going to win this round. Just get out there and do it. He did it. He came out. He spoke for about 55 minutes, I think the total calculation is, or little less than that. Almost a full hour. And didn't do anything that was catastrophic, which the Democrats really wanted. Didn't do anything that was incredible, that would coalesce everybody behind him, which is what they needed. And so it's really preserving the status quo. I think we're going to see a lot more of Joe, and there's no reason for him to drop out at this moment in time. He has the delegates, like he said, and he does have a lot. He talked a lot about policy. Could Kamala do that? Probably not, to be honest with you. So he was meandering. I don't know if it made any sense. I think he was just making crap up, just kind of like a meandering old man, but he did it. And there's an important point to this. He lost energy as this was going down, but that's how people view things, right? So let's call ourselves low intelligence, which I know is basically everyone, but on the Democratic voter side, they're going to watch for 5 minutes. They're going to watch for 10 minutes. They're going to watch these clips that come out. And if you're in the Democratic bubble, you're not going to see the stuff like Trump, you know, Vice President Trump or Zelensky Putin. You're not going to see those flubs. So I thought that he did what he needed to do for his campaign, which was great for the campaign, not great for the Democrats, not great for America, really, if you wanted a functional president. But if you're along for the ride in this political madness, then this was good for our side because it preserves the status quo. And we got exactly what we expected from the media on this one, not even a surprise. I mean, we were hoping that we would see some aggressive questions, like it would be like the Colosseum. So there would be these lions coming out. You've been lying to us for 3.5 years, and now this is our moment for vengeance and to ask you a hard question. But we didn't. We got a bunch of patty cake questions. It wasn't the Colosseum. It was like a pillow fight. And they came out. They asked him some NATO questions. And that one reporter, I don't know who that was, but it sounded like it was literally scripted. His question was something to the effect of, European countries are so scared of Trump. How can you help us deal with that? That was a question. And Joe Biden says, well, Trump, you know, is going to do all these bad things. And Trump, it's like a softball T-ball question. They didn't even pitch it. They just put it up on the T-ball. Biden walked up and hit it out of the park. We answered the question before he did. That's how easy the question was about what are you going to do? Should you leave or whatever? It's I have to win. I have to win. You don't need to prepare for Trump coming. It's like, come on, guys. It's like a 5th grade answer. Everybody knows that one. So it felt like a game of patty cake. The media had all the questions. He was calling them one at a time. We had a couple questions about competency, which is what you would expect. But he answered them. Okay, they were gimmies. They set him up to give him the gimmies. The one reporter at the very end asked about Trump, who is now responding to him on True Social. Let's see what that looks like while we're here. Oh, and locals, we're going to have to open up a new feed. So let's do that right now because we're going to have to open up a part 2 on this puppy. And so let me fire that up right now. So let's see what Trump is saying on this. And he just posted over on Truth. Let's see. He's sharing a couple clips. And let's see. Hang on one second. So we'll get this going. And let's see if Trump, 11 hours ago, he posted, great polls out today. Make America great again. And I'm trying to find the one of him. Yeah, here is the one from Trump. All right, so now I have to make this quick change over here. Apologies for the delay, my friends. We're rebooting over for locals, getting a separate feed cooking on this one right now. And that will be coming up. As we speak. So let's do this, pop that off, and then do that. All right, so locals, friends, you should be coming back here in a minute. But here is what Donald Trump said in response to this. says Crooked Joe begins his big boy press conference with, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, though I think she was not qualified to be president. Great job, Joe. Here is the exchange, if this will play on Truth. Doesn't look like it will, for whatever reason. Here's this.
A significant amount of them tells me declassified.
So Trump's posting stuff.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
Yeah, so he got asked about that.
I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people.
All right, so Trump is dunking Crooked Joe as a case of Trump derangement syndrome. And I thought that was that's an interesting point, because I thought this was a NATO summit. And Joe Biden kind of turned it into a campaign rally where he was talking about Trump. So they could have just held a press briefing, but they tried to tack it on to NATO so that they could cover up a lot of the questions with NATO questions. They didn't want to answer a bunch of competency questions, so they just said, let's talk about Zelensky. Now, the media, of course, it was as rigged as I think anything was. I was hoping there'd be some anger and independence there, because they got lied to and gaslit by Joe Biden for about half a decade now. But they didn't. They came out just like good little Democrat minions. They always fall in line. And it does not sound like Joe Biden is going anywhere. That's tremendous news for our side, because his brain is still his brain. And he seemed much better than he did at the debate this time. No doubt about it. Much better. And even marginally functional today. But not really what you want in a president. And I think the imagery of the debate is going to be hard to deflate. But he didn't give the left, he didn't give the Democratic Party any justification tonight to throw him out. In fact, I think he gave himself and his campaign justifiable rationality, reasons for them to stay in the campaign. So it was a very successful night for our side. Great night for Joe Biden. Terrible night for the Democrats and the Democratic Party. They got obliterated. They're stuck in the status quo. They've got Joe sticking around, it seems like, indefinitely. And so they're going to keep asking questions. Is he really leaving? Is he really leaving? And he's going to say, I did a great job. I spoke for an hour. I answered all sorts of questions about NATO, world affairs, great summit. Joe's sticking around. We're happy about that. All right, let's see what you say about this, my friends. It is a beautiful, beautiful day. It was quite boring, I'll say that, but it was a filibuster routine, and our pathetic media could have made it interesting, but they didn't, because they're pathetic. But let's see what you say about this, my friends. And then, of course, we'll wrap it up and go on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We've got some new comments coming in. Soulish Butterfly sent this one in. Says, I want to see Peter Ducey. I bet he's got a doozy of a question. Oh, I think I just saw him. Yep, he's got the red folder. Ducey didn't get a question today. Are you surprised? Shocking, I know. This one from Jack Mack says, man, this press conference could be brutal. A messy part of me wants him to do okay, though, so they can keep him on the ballot. Is that wrong? No. Not at all, Jack. It's exactly right. And I think that's exactly what happened today. He did fine. He did fine. It's like, all right. He sounded like Joe Biden always sounds. I don't think he's, creme de la creme of American excellence in any stretch of the imagination, not even on the menu. But he wasn't debate Joe Biden, and that's what would have been enough to throw him aside, and they couldn't do that. Super Buff is on Rumble. Says, a conscience gateway pundit says, judge presiding over Donald Trump, Fulton County, RICO, ignored evidence that Georgia Secretary of State lied about an audit following the 2020 election. Yeah, there's some bad stuff happening in Georgia. That looks like a good one from our friends at the Gateway Pundit. Thanks for flagging that for us. We got MJ Powell, what's up? Saying Biden is a complete failure. But we love him, though, as the nominee for the Democratic Party, since he represents them perfectly and how they think and talk and speak and walk and their families and their integrity and all the things. What's up? Wide Awake says, I started watching your excellent show about 6 months ago. Thanks for your detailed analysis of the cases against Trump and others. You are kicking butt. Thank you for saying that. Wide Awake over on Rumble. Great to have you over there. And we're glad you joined us. 6 months is, 2/3 of the way to a baby. Spiral Game says he's probably late because he's getting pumped full of uppers so he doesn't look low energy. Yeah, he was late. And oh my gosh, the overs won it And if you had close to 30 minutes, you were very close. It was 29 and 28 minutes, I think, after the hour. So 15 wasn't a good spread. I should have called it like 27 would have been great. But 30 probably would have been a better one. Maybe would have split that. But I didn't want to go with 30 because we were already half an hour late. So that's why I did it that way. But, you know, not great. Hey, what's up? Juan Pablo Corsi says the AP channel has 103,000 viewers. That's crazy. That's a lot. A lot of people were watching this today. And honestly, I think if you're a Democrat, like put the Democrat hat on and let's pretend you're a Democrat. For example, here, like we can just do this. Like we can just pretend we're a Democrat just for one quick second here. And we can wear this because they love Nathan's hot dogs. And we could say, how are you feeling today after what we witnessed? And I think they're feeling probably pretty good, pretty good about it. So they think he's competent, he's capable, and he's done a great job, I think. So hopefully that's the case. So we'll see. Now that hat, this hat, is going to come back when we have our next Fannie Willis segment, but I couldn't resist pulling it out. It was sitting here. This came over courtesy of Tremendous. And it's tremendous. All right, so we've got that. That is exciting stuff. And we'll see what the Democrats think about it. This one came in from Michelle P. Says, we are watching 3D chess in-house right now. Yeah, I think we are watching it. Membo for 4 months. Thank you, Michelle P. They're all moving their pieces around. We're watching it. Eric H. What's the over-under for him dropping a doozy? Is Peter Doocy going to get a question? No, he didn't, of course. Knox is here, says, we need to save our democracy by having abortions and voting without our IDs. Then we'll all be finally free in our country. Troublemaker Davey says, don't say poopin', don't say poopin'. Crap, I said poopin'. Charles G, what's up, Charles? Thanks for becoming a supporter. We'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow the members-only morning stream is going to be a little bit later because your boy is hanging out with Stephen Gardner. It's going to be fun. We're going to do a little convo tomorrow, Stephen Gardner. And I don't know if it's going to be live yet, but I will make that determination tomorrow. What's up, Bliskin? We'll see you tomorrow morning, Bliskin, as well. And if you're a new supporter, don't forget to grab the morning stream that we talked about this morning. Hey, Daryl Kendall. What's up, Daryl? Thanks for these nice donos. He says, this presser's not happening. You didn't give the people that knew this a part of the betting odds. So I think Bob, is that me, is literally stealing our money. Literally. Stole it right from Kendall's, made him insert it into the thing. I know, I'm just teasing you, Kendall. Thanks for the nice dono. I appreciate that one, Daryl. We got this one from Easter Shugart. Says, not Easter, Esther without the H. Kindest regards. Not Easter, Esther. Yeah, Esther, right? Without the H. So it's not Ether, it's Esther. Yeah. What's up, Esther? Did I say Easter? My apologies. Thank you, Esther, for the nice dono, and thanks for being here. Kindest regards back to you. We got this one from Midwest Express. Says, we had 6,000 people watching. That's pretty awesome. 6,000 watching the watchers present. Let's smash the like button. Thanks for the reminder. The Midwestern Express. Great to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining us today. Larry says, why are there teleprompters? So he could read his little pre-written speech for him. Bandit is here. Says, if Joe Biden is 15 minutes late, are we legally allowed to insurrect? Well, he was 30 minutes late. The press didn't insurrect anything. In fact, they fell back in line. We were kind of watching the insurrection, the Democratic Party trying to insurrect the voters, but that didn't happen. What's up? Hatch in the house says, happy MAGA month. Hatch in the house on the Rumbles. Thanks for that one, Hatch. It's a beautiful month. It's been a hell of a month for MAGA. We got Michael M. Says, using social media. So are they putting back the conservative comments the White House is asking to take down? No, I don't think so. Of course not, because conservative comments are dangerous misinformation that come from Putin, and we can't allow those to be free. This old guy says his launch window for this shebang is closing rapidly. He has to be in bed by 8. He stayed up past his bedtime today, didn't he, this old guy? I knew it. Salty Sarge says, my money is on Joe, Hunter, and Zelensky. They hold up in the bathroom arguing over the weight of the gifts from Ukraine. Yeah, so Zelensky and Hunter were in the bathroom. They were like pep talking Joe Biden. Here, just snort this, Dad. Hey, just put this in your nose. Just get out there. One old guy's opinions says, how does a non-binary unalive someone. They, them. They, them. So they, them. Get it, I think? Is that the joke? They, them. Or they slash them. They slash them. Get it. I got it. They slash them. Got it. I got it. That's funny. Charles G. He only had a short time to recharge in the Borg regeneration chamber. How wide open will his eyes be tonight? It was dynamic. There were some times where it was a little bit like droopy, and then like probably the patch like kicked back in. He's like, oh, there it is. And he came back and he opened back up and got back into it. What's up? Let's go. Brandon says, guys, don't take the bait. Okay. I'm resting comfortably in bed. That's a crack-addled robot. So Joe Biden was in bed watching our stream while the robot went out and tried to deliver the speech. Eddie Block says, he is slurring his speech. What's up, Eddie? Charles G says, you can tell they had huge text teleprompters at the back of the room. He is reading from them. Yeah, so for his speech, that was probably true. But for the answers, I don't think he was reading. Hopefully not, but ideally not. What's up? Indoctrinations on Rumble says, Biden looks freshly injected. He looked way better tonight than he did at the debate. Objectively speaking, I think he looked much better, sounded much better. And the lighting was better. He had some color to him. He didn't look as dead, only like 60% dead. We got one old guy's opinion says, telling you how he and NATO started World War III with UKR flags flown on U.S. soil. Get ready, UKR NATO membership or Ukraine NATO membership soon. He was certainly walking through that, and I get very, very nervous when he starts talking about going into Russia. Okay, so we see where this is going. What's up, David B? David Bodendorfer, what's up in the house? Thanks for this. 5 membos coming in. You know who you are. YouTube is not letting us read them anymore for whatever reason, so you'll get an email. And remember, David brought you in. We got this one from Bob in the Zona. Says, someone tell Joe Ukraine isn't a part of NATO. Despite their best efforts, they're trying to make that happen, but it's not the case currently. We'll see if they can do it. Military vet says prices are up 100 to 300%, all under Biden. And that is absolutely true. I don't know about you guys. I saw some video the other day on X where somebody was saying that they went to Walmart like 2 years ago. Then they went to Walmart and they bought all these groceries, spent $150. They clicked the reorder button today, 2 years later or 3 years later, and it was now $450. So their $150 grocery bill for the same stuff, reorder, $450. Insane for just 3 years. And they say, no, inflation's going down. Okay. Hey, thanks, David, for this one. Says, when we go vote, everyone should speak in a Russian accent. And then I guess FBI will come visit all of us. Good to see you, David. Hey, Mima says, okay, I've had enough. All right, I muted him. His lies make my blood boil. I understand that, Mima. I understand that. Yeah, believe me, I wanted to mute him too, but we had a show to do, unfortunately. Fortunately. Sheila P. says, if our leadership matters, then we need someone with a brain. Vice President Trump? Okay. Trump's like, sure. I mean, you can nominate me and resign, and then I'll just take over now. Do you want me to take over now? We can do it. Not a bad idea. One old guy's opinion says Trump has not been in office since January 2021 to this day. Every drop of sangre spilled on your border policies and NATO policies is on your head, Joe, and on your Democrat Party's head. Yeah, it's amazing when they try to blame Trump for all of America's problems. You're like, wait, he was in office for 4 years. Joe, you've been in office for 4 decades. They're your fault, not his. Eddie Block says, charging companies higher taxes only taxes Americans. Businesses have a set profit. If they're charged more taxes, they just add the higher taxes to the buyer. Thus, we pay the taxes. It's true. Bruce Wayne says, Joe almost managed it. Haha, almost managed it. One old guy says, Biden's VP is Trump? I know. I learned that today too. Incredible. Weird. Hey, Rain is here. Says, first had a built-in pause to let Joe correct it. First question had a built-in pause to let Joe correct it. Good to see you, Rain. Hey, Daryl's another one, says, okay, this is so good. I was wrong about it not happening. I admit it. And Bob, we give you our money freely. Thank you for that, Daryl. I appreciate it. Kind of. Otherwise, you won't read our comments. Well, that's true. I mean, I can't, it's kind of a necessity, right? There's so many comments, it makes your comments stand out, obviously, like this one does. Very nice one, by the way. Thank you for it. Says, elect me. Bob will read your comments from Daryl. Thank you for that, Daryl. Another very generous one today. I appreciate you. Thanks for sending it in. You're right. It was good. I'm glad it did happen. Knox says, I've only had 60 years in government, and so I need more time. I saved the best for last. No joke. I know. That's exactly my point, but I said 4 decades. You're right. It's like 6, isn't it? Sick. His whole life. 200-watt studio says Trump would stay for an hour answering questions. Well, he was there for about an hour. So he had a little speech, and then he had some questions. So I don't know how much time, but he was there for a while, to be honest, just rambling, filibustering away, but he was still there. Philip C. calling her heels up Harris for the win. I know. Joe was excited about that. Knox is here. These questions were fed to these fake reporters who were handpicked, and he still screws it up. It was about as fake as it could be. Yeah, here's Ray Ronk. Can this be more obviously rehearsed? OMG. No. And that one question was like, come on, guys. Like, are you even trying to hide it? No, you're not. Daryl, another one, Daryl. Man, super generous. Thanks for sending all these in. Says, Joe marked his enemies this week. This is so good. His campaign just marked them all. And my President Trump ain't one of them. I think that's an astute observation. There's a war in the party happening. That's why they're all so scared to speak out, because they're trying to wait to see who wins. And they don't want to declare their loyalty. It's like, hey, bend the knee. They're like, no, I'm not sure yet. We want to see what Joe does. How's the debate do? Okay, now I'll bend the knee. Because they're fair weather fans, and they're mostly cowards with no real spine in them. So they have to then see which way the wind blows and follow accordingly. Thank you again, Daryl. Very generous today. Hey, B-Man says, President Trump is watching and laughing and truthing about it, as we saw. Salty Sarge on Rumble says, no need to worry. It's not like this is a tree-fingered alien, a 3-fingered alien in a 5 fingers alien suit. That's true. I don't know what it was. Or is it? Is he high as nuts? Just ask any questions from Salty Sarge over on Rumble. Good to see you, Salty. This one from Barry Soetero says, only a lying-faced dog... sorry. I'm trying to rephrase a Biden phrase, and I had a hard time. Only a lying dog-faced pony soldier would quit now. Don't give in to the pressure. Big guy, Joe. Here, I agree. He can do it. He can. 200-watt studio says, Joe is going to start World War III, and he won't even know it. This one from Salty says, Russia already has Crimea and the land bridge to it. That's all they ever wanted. This war could stop tomorrow. Yeah, but then the U.S. contractors don't get their endless grift. Chubby says, with the pre-selected reporters and questions, this is less of a press conference and more of a forced Biden rally. Seems like some of these reporters are also suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, it's interesting that they've been lied to. This was their big moment to ask a hard question, and they just don't do it. They just know they're just not going to do it. And they all did it. They all were just regular reporters, and we got nothing out of it. It's total scripted. They know, man, they know. They're going to circle the wagons again. They threw a little hissy fit and a temper tantrum, but it's like a teenager. They're just going through a phase. They'll get over it. Hey, Vanessa. What's up? Vanessa S. Membo for 14 months says, I can membership gifts on mobile. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so obviously YouTube is making a bunch of changes. I don't know what is going on with the Membos, but I'm glad that you can do that. Thanks for saying that, Vanessa. Thanks for being a Membo for 14 months. That's a long time. Hey, Daryl, another one. Says, last dono. This is perfect. Says, now our President Trump only has to fight Biden. I think that's right. He's staying in. Biden has to fight President Trump and Obama and the mainstream media and the DNC. This is perfect. Love y'all, Patriots. We love you back, Daryl. Yeah, it's true. It's true. There's multiple fissures, multiple fractures. They don't know what to do. And it's just been so enjoyable. This one from Sheila P. says, countries belonging to NATO have nothing to fear if they fulfill their financial obligations. American taxpayers are not obligated to support all of Europe's defense needs. No, we can't even defend our own border. So why should we be worrying about what's happening in Europe? Shout out to our friends in Europe. But honestly, though, hey, Box Lane Productions says Biden is a walking Jenga tower. That's true. He did look like he was about to keel over if you just pulled out one little nub. Bird Law, what happened here? it looks like we got the membos back. Check this out. So what happened? Bird law. I don't know. Maybe YouTube made a change. Noah, we complained about it. They made a change. Thank you, YouTube. Hey, Birdlaw, gifted 10 membos. Noah H coming in. True Seeker, welcome. Fred L, Jeremy, Nightman's Wife, Jerry Lass, Lynn G, Lance Uppercut, LaDonna in the house, and S, gifted membos, courtesy of Birdlaw. Birdlaw, thanks for being a membo and bringing in 10 new membos. Amazing of you to do that. Hey, we got Sheila P also bringing in. Sheila the Pooh. A million hugs to you. Bringing in 10 new membos. John W. Kem is in the house. Billy Lay Bully Hunter. We have Central Ohio E. Flippin' Moose. Breaking Newscast. Leah R. Mega Mindy Lou. Patriot Wheel. And Just Mojo in the house, courtesy of Sheila P. Gifted membos. We got Jackie C. Membo for 15 months. Says Biden drugs are wearing down. Thanks, Rob. We noticed that too, down as the energy was dissipating. One old guy's opinions says this idiot is helping Ukraine, unaliving Ukraine and Russians because the military-industrial complex needs the blood money and bot politicians need it too. I've never seen anybody get as excited about war as Lindsey Graham. He's like, I'm getting a new swimming pool. We need to go fight for democracy in Ukraine. What are you so excited about, Lindsey? Drew, a membo for 21 months, that's over 2 babies, says Biden equals we will rule the world. American hypocrisy. Thanks, Drew, for being a membo for 21 full months. Amazing. That's a long time. And we're just getting started. This one from Box Lane Productions says, during the Maui fires, a month before October 7th, Biden sat on a beach with an Israeli beach towel draped over one chair and Ukraine flag draped over the other. Yeah, that's pretty curious. And you notice that this happens a lot with our politicians. Like, for example, I remember when Mike Johnson won and became the new speaker, like the first thing he said was, it's so great, I can't wait to get to work for America, but first we got to deal with our friends in Ukraine and Israel. I'm going, that's your first order of business? Thanks. Hey, what's up, K-Bean? Says, 28 months as a membo, K-Bean. Oh my gosh, that is a long time. Thanks for being a membo for so long. And modding the fort down for us and just being amazing. And by the way, she's going to be on a podcast, K-Bean. This is who we're talking about. Next week, Off-Label Podcast. Check them out. It's going to be great. Performed for short attention span voters. Clown show. Saying that Joe has done that, evidently. Yeah, and I agree with that. I think he needed to do what he needed to do. And even if maybe he was falling off there a little bit, they were done. They watched 5 minutes, 10 minutes of it. They called it a night. And that was it. So I think there are probably a lot of Democrats with a sigh of relief right now going, whew, okay, we can do this, which is great because that's what we wanted. Thanks, K-Bean. We got Finn Contracting, fell asleep on us. I don't blame you. Drew says, I'm Australian. This speech is the exact reason so many people dislike America. Not the people, but your corrupt, hypocritical leaders. Yeah, and I'd like to know exactly what you're referencing there, Drew, because he said a lot of stuff that we dislike as well. And, you know, it's unfortunate that he's our president because we also dislike a lot of what he said. Thanks for watching us, though, from Australia. How cool is that? Michelle P says, this whole thing feels like it has been scripted. Joe Biden is too ready with real answers. He has not been able to do this since 2020. Did the questions arrive early from those selected? Yeah, probably. I mean, we know that they tell the media when Joe Biden does interviews what the questions should be. We know they edit them after the fact. So, yeah, I think he probably had something worked out. Good to see you, Michelle. Hey, Box Lane says, how many light bulbs does it take to change a Biden? Well, apparently none that the Democratic Party have. And he's going to be sticking around. Rain says, anyway, is his safe word when his brain breaks. It is. We all have them, but he's definitely got that one. Anyway, he said it a lot at the end. You can tell when someone's getting tired because their filler words start coming out at the end of their live streams. Hey, what's up, Philip B? More children are killed by Democrats. Yeah, true. I think that's true. Yeah. Huge numbers. Yeah. What's up, Knox? Says cancer is the leading cause of death for children and adolescents, particularly in high-income countries. After accidents, Cancer is the second leading cause in death in children ages 1 to 14, probably. The most common cancers causing death, brain cancer. It's terrible, man, these poor kids. Each year, 400,000 children develop cancer. I don't see bullets listed. Yeah, I don't know what he was talking. Bullets? There's like a bunch of like 14-year-old girls like shooting themselves or something. Is that true? I was thinking suicide, but that's mostly white males. All right. Well, thank you, Knox, for that. Yeah, Joe's lying again. David Dickey in the house. Welcome aboard as a new supporter. Great to have you. We'll see you on the Membo streams and grab this morning's if you missed it. We got Chris Smith says, keep Joe on the ticket and vote Trump. Elect Trump a third time. Cheers to you, Chris. Thanks for that one. Southern Comfort, been a Membo for 11 months. Says, you did it, Joe. You answered every question. You get some ice cream tonight. I'm sure Jill Biden was very happy with him. She like took out like 3 stickers, 3 stars, and she put them up there. 3 more stars, Joe, and we're going to a movie. Yeah. All right. So thanks, Southern Comfort. I know he did great. Hey, Aussie Kev says, would a Biden win start a civil war? That's a good question. I don't think so. I mean, I think civil war, I don't know that most Americans would even care. You know, it's like we get all bent out of shape here, obviously, about it because we love our country and we love our civil liberties and we want free, fair lives so we can just live in peace. But most Americans are just like, meh, what else is on? You know, I watched that film, The Civil War, some of it, whatever it was. I'm like, nobody's going to get off their couch for any of this. Like, what's going to be enough to get people off their couch to go out and go fight each other? I don't know. If it wasn't COVID, I don't know what else. I don't know that there's anything really, honestly. Hey, what's up? Salty Sarge says, is it me or unless it's like a catastrophe, it's not going to be like an election or something. But Salty Sarge says, is it me or did Joe right the ship well enough to get some of the rats to come back on board? Yeah, because they were fleeing the sinking ship. Yeah, last one, Rob. Love all you do and the watchers too. I think so. I think that there are probably Democrats who are breathing a sigh of relief tonight. That's a good thing for our side. Chubby says, go look at the polling in those 2 states, 2 second laters. How accurate do you think those polls are these days? That's a great logical inconsistency. A great logical inconsistency there, Chubby. And he did say that. Busted. Jack Mack is in the house, says the binder probably had 35-point font, reporter, news organization, and the answer right underneath. Yuck, he's so slimy. I feel gross even listening to this. It did feel like it was just a show, like a play. Everybody's just playing their lines. This person from the AP clearly had, stuff that Joe was prepped on. And they played it off like it was a legitimate press conference. It's all a show, obviously. Thanks, Jack. Again, this one from the Only Crows over on Rumble says 100% agree about this being a best case for Trump. They almost have to stick with Biden now. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they do. He did pretty good. He's like an hour of foreign policy, NATO. He took it to Trump. He was doing all the things. So yeah, it's like his campaign now has a bunch of talking point and ammo, and they'll blow off the Trump thing. VP, you know what he was talking about. And they would ask this question. If it was somebody who was not Joe Biden and that happened, would you excuse that? Of course you would. You would just say, yeah, it's just a flub. We all have that. Not a big deal. I say it all the time. I mixed up words, all the stuff, but I don't have dementia. I don't think, hopefully. Should I take a neurological test? Oh no. I take one every day. I'm fine. Cliff Norman says, rambling nonsense that was divorced from the reality of the grocery store. Yeah, and he just kept going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny. Good to see you, Cliff. This old guy says, somebody sometime told Joe about a little thing in theater known as an aside. It's pretty useful in theater, but Joe thinks whispering is the same thing. And it's not. If the mission was to go out there and kind of ramble and not say anything too stupid, but say a bunch of stuff that kind of makes like you know what you're talking about, he accomplished that. He did a lot of the whisper and he started doing the finger point there at the end. But he burned a lot of time and didn't say much of anything. Hey, thank you for that, this old guy. Tara Rayner, 1 year plus, says he's a great candidate for the Dems. He's great. He represents them exactly well. He's a great representation of them. Trump Carson, 2024, says Tara. Matthew Fealty says, was that Ducey at the end? Janine says, no, that wasn't him. No, Good on him. I don't know who that was. The chosen few wanted him to be oblivious. The guy with the Putin flub question could have easily helped cleaned it up. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know who asked that one at the end. But that guy could have asked him about that. Because, yeah, exactly right. The guy with the Putin question could have asked that, right? He could have inserted that in there. You called Zelensky Putin, and you just called, I don't know if you caught it, but you just called Trump your vice president. People are noticing this. Is there anything that you want to do to address that? What happened? And he ignored it. He could have inserted that in there, but he had a pre-scripted question. So he didn't want to deviate from that. His question was already verbatim written out, and somebody looked at him and said, don't you dare change this one freaking word, buddy. And he didn't. He could have, but he didn't. Carl, 3 months as a membo. His skin was tighter today, and his eyes were wide. This one from John Libby says, Biden has lost his freaking marbles. Thanks, Rob. Love you back, John. Thanks for the heart. Thanks for the dono. We got M. Ball, said membo for 2 months. Says September is World Dementia Awareness Month, which will be great because we'll have Joe Biden, who will be a great advocate for the cause during the second debate in September. We got Victoria L. became a new supporter, membo on the YouTubes. Thank you, Victoria. Grab those membo streams and we'll see you on the next one. We had a baby. We got a full baby in the house. Kitchen Mortician became our newest parent. Says that had to be a penance because it was not redemption. From Kitchen Mortician. 9 months as a membo. That's a new baby in the house. We got this one from Loose the Dog. Says, do you suppose that Biden is so confident of winning because they're planning on another cheating of an election or worse? Yes. That's what he said when he was saying we have the greatest voter operation ever. They're going to ballot harvest. They're going to waive signature. They're going to do all the things they did last time. They're already doing it. Whitmer's changing stuff. We had Jocelyn Benson in Michigan who wanted an initial presumption of validity for all signatures that came down the pike. We've seen Maine try to throw him off. Colorado try to throw Trump off. They are cheaters. They're already cheating. It's just different. Hey, Neuro says, thanks for bringing us the former vice president's big boy briefing in a way that didn't explode our brains. Thanks for that, Neuro. The former vice president. I like how you called him that. That's fun. T.A. Holloway says, Rob, thanks again for, well, anyway. Oh, yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I was going to respond to your comment, T.A. Holloway, but anyway, I don't know what I was going to say. One Old Guy's Opinions says, Wade can't resist pulling out the Nathan's hot dog. Again, indeed. It's hard to resist when it looks that good. It looks good, man. I'm a huge supporter. We support Nathan's hot dogs because it's just so damn funny. It's just hilarious. What's up? One Old Guy's Opinion. Thanks for that. Larry's in the house. Welcome aboard, Larry. Thanks for becoming a membo. We got Snowy Baby. What's up, Snowy Baby? Says, thanks for all your hard work. Thank you, Snowy Baby. Thank you for joining us. Today was pretty fun. I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but I thought it was good. Joe did pretty good. Beach Life is here. Says, voting for VP Trump. Yeah, I guess so am I. VP Trump. I didn't even know he was vice president. Man, the man has accomplished so many things. We didn't even know he was vice president. Trump. He's amazing. What an amazing man. Hey, thanks, Beach Life. Londo in the house says, make up donos, Rob. I had to get hack instructions from Mini Wheat to give you coins. Thank you for that, Londo. Well, I'm glad you worked it out. I'm very glad you worked it out. I appreciate it. Thank you for digging into it, to making sure we can get some of those. We got MJ Powell says, nice try, Biden, but you faltered in your responses to the questions. You could have done better. I think that's absolutely true. He could have done way better. And that would have been worse for our side. The fact that he did like status quo was like, not terrible, but not great. Perfect. They don't have enough to get him out, and he's going to stick around. Carl Peterson in the house. Thanks, Carl. Gifted a membo to Belil. What? How come we can see the membos now all of a sudden? Amazing. Chief Vince gifted 5 membos. Thank you, Chief, for doing this. Heffenziba. We got Rhonda C., My Alaskan Girls in the house, Karen Leah, and Janine Goodnight, all gifted membos, courtesy of Chief Vince. Thanks, Chief Vince, for being a membo and bringing in new membos. Londo says, this was your most unpleasant stream. I need Excedrin or something now. I feel like I've suffered a traumatic brain injury listening to Joe Biden for so long. Yeah, I mean, we all definitely have, it's temporary, okay? Our IQ points go down temporarily in the aftermath of these events, but it's like exercise. It's like when you go and you lift weights, you're breaking down your muscle fibers. It's kind of like exercising your brain. Yes, our IQ points go down, especially when we listen to Kamala Harris. It's like, you know, like in a video game, when you jump in lava and your life bar goes like down very fast versus if you jump in like the acid, it goes down fast, but not as fast. Yeah. So it's just what we're dealing with here. But the truth is, my friends, we get stronger. That's why we do it. Hey, MJ Powell, thanks for bringing in 5 membos. R. Mal in the house. Patricia C. Amazing Disgrace. We got Pamela C. gifted a membo. And Richard B. all coming in courtesy of MJ Powell. Thank you, MJ, for doing that. Londo says, Joe said nothing I liked. Nothing. I need a shower now. Go. Yeah, I think we all do a little bit. Hey, this one from Viva MAGA says, Kamala Harris wrote this, Trump bows down to dictators. He makes America weak. And that is disqualifying for someone who wants to be commander-in-chief. And Greg posted this. He says, thank you, Vice President Trump, responding to Kamala. Thank you, Vice President Trump. And did you see this new photo of VP Trump? Greg also posted this one. Pretty interesting photo from Greg. There he is. Interesting image. I don't like it at all. Not at all. All right, thank you for that one. We got this one from Londo. Says, bullets eliminating young girls is a follow-up. I don't know what that comment is, Londo, but thanks for it. And I appreciate the dono. And so, my friends, we are going to say what's up to X before we call it a day. And thank you so much for sending in those incredible donos. Amazing conversation. What a wild stream. Joe Biden did great. He can do it. He can hang on for another couple months. And it's going to be fun to watch. All right, let's see what people on X are saying. Here's one. Here's Karine right now. I don't know if you guys saw this one. Someone took this photograph of Karine. She was outside. She's standing outside the White House right now. She doesn't look happy. I don't blame her. Here's what she looks like. Oh, man. Poor Karine. How is she going to respond to VP Trump tomorrow? Oh, man. She's having a hard time. So we'll keep our eye out on Karine. Hopefully she's doing okay. All right. Let's see what else is happening over on the tubes of X. We have some comments. We are going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com to hang out for a little bit. And what's up, James Peppers, dropping some comments. We got Boopsters over there calling out Trump. Deli's in the house. What's up, Mrs. Skeeter? Miss Skeeter says, in my opinion, a key factor for Joe holding on to the presidency is the fate of Hunter Biden. Interesting comment. As President Joe Daddy has options that could save Hunter's future. What's up, Phoenix Electra Circuit? Phil Reno's in the house, exposing it all. Yeah, that is a teleprompter. What's up, Shakes? Good to see you. Tony DeMarco. And yeah, replace Russian with Democrat, and then that's all you're going to need. So some great comments over there on X. We like to say hello to our friends on X. It's a great place to follow us and follow other watchers out there in the wilderness. And so be sure to check that out. My friends, though, we are going to leave it there, and we are going to head over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where we're going to hang out, do a little after party with our membos over there. We'd love to have you come and join us. And it'd be fun if you did that. But we also have our website, robertgovea.com. We have watcherlodge.com. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, twc.health/Robert, linked down below to get your supplies. We want to thank our mods and our meme smiths who helped us out bigly tonight, because I know we had a busy chat, tons of comments and donos. And so thanks for everybody for being so contributory and supportive of what we're doing here. It really means the world to us. Couldn't do it without you, so thank you again. Shout outs to K Bean, Just Cause, we got Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zach Nichols, Jan X in the house, Dog Digger, Economy Pilot, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, and our friend Zulu. On the fort down for us, keeping things nice and orderly. We got Sleepy Dog Lee, Nathan N810, and Geegum Geegum with Glocky McGlock and Elliot, our Doc Master. All modding the fort down for us, keeping things oh so nice and orderly. But that is where we are going to leave it. We're going to hang out on Locals. Members, tomorrow, check the calendar at robertgovea.com/calendar. And we're going to move our members only stream in the morning because your boy's going to be hanging out with Stephen Gardner in the morning. We're going to be having a conversation. He's right next door on YouTube. And so I'll be sharing more about when that goes live at the time. But in the morning, we'll be doing that. And so we'll do probably, I think, a debrief as soon as we're done. So we'll hop off there and we'll come back and we'll do a members only stream in the morning, whenever that happens to be. So until then, my friends, we are going to go over to Locals to hang out for a little bit longer. And I'd love to see you there. But if not, well, we are going to come back here tomorrow to get into it again at the same time, same location, and same place. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye. All right, my beautiful friends, we're back, man. We got some good comments over on Locals. We had 2 threads today because we've been going extra long on the special Biden Big Boy Day. We got Sergeant GPS says, Utah's Governor Cox is the chair of the association, and he's hosting Zelensky at the upcoming meeting in Salt Lake. Cox also came out the other day, said he's not voting for Trump. He'll be writing in a candidate. I saw that. Yeah, this Governor Cox out of Utah. It was a weird exchange. So he's going to be meeting with Zelensky, and he's not going to vote for Trump. What the heck is going on in Utah? Good to see you, Sergeant. Very good to see you. Jill C says, unburdened by what has been. LOL. I mean, what a whack job. Yeah, I'm certainly feeling... Oh, we're still back on YouTube. Oh, so I forgot to exit out of everything. So sorry about that, everybody. So we're going to cut everybody out. Sorry, guys. I forgot to do that. I got too excited. We're going to come back later. All right, sorry, bye.